Thank you so much for joining us for the FuturePedsRes Mid-Atlantic Part 2, England and South Atlantic Part 2 regional webinar for the 2024 March cycle. If you're with us for the first time, welcome. And if you've attended previous webinars, thank you for joining us again. My name is Estelle Green. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a fourth-year medical student at the Penn State College of Medicine in the UP curriculum located in the Happy Valley of State College, Pennsylvania. And I am serving as one of the co-directors for FuturePedsRes this year.
Hi everyone, my name is Denise Cruz and I'm stepping in tonight for our other wonderful co-director, Catherine Geico. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm currently a fourth-year medical student at Alabama College of Osteopathic Medicine, and I'm serving as the Associate Director of Webinars for FuturePedsRes this year.
We want to remind you that we will be having our East North Central webinar on Tuesday, August 29th, and our last regional webinar featuring residency programs from the West South Central and East South Central regions will take place on September 5th. We'll drop the one-time registration link for all of our webinars in the chat, or you can also scan the QR code on the screen to sign up.
I'd like to take a moment to share ComCEP's Open House Hub on their website, highlighting various program open houses with their Zoom link, all in one convenient location. Feel free to scan this QR code as well on the screen or click the link in your chat to check it out.
We would also like to take this time to acknowledge our APPD faculty advisor, Dr. Michael Dell, who is the Vice Chair of Education at Case Western Reserve University School of Medicine, as well as Colleen Hughes, who serves as the Associate Executive Director for the APPD.
We would also like to acknowledge our ComCEP faculty advisor, Dr. Rachel Thompson, who is the Assistant Professor of Pediatrics and Director of Pediatric Fourth-Year Medical Student Education at the Boston Medical Center, Boston University Chobanian Avedisian School of Medicine. These individuals have made tonight possible, and we are very grateful for their support.
It is now our pleasure to introduce you all to our Assistant Directors of Webinars for the Mid-Atlantic 2, New England, and South Atlantic 2 region, Divya Kewalramani and Denise Moncada. Divya and Denise, would you like to unmute and introduce yourselves?
Hi everyone, my name is Divya and I just graduated medical school at American University of Barbados. I am currently a research fellow at Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh and I am one of your assistant directors.
Hello everyone, my name is Denise Moncada, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm an international medical graduate from Ecuador. I'm currently doing research in the neonatology department at Weill Cornell Medicine, and I'm serving FPR as an assistant director of webinars. And now let's delve into our goals for the night.
Welcome to everyone joining us tonight. We are so excited to have everyone at the Mid-Atlantic Part 2, New England and South Atlantic Part 2 regional webinar, and are grateful to all the program directors and assistants as well as the coordinators and residents who have taken time out to be with us tonight. Our series goals for the regional webinar are providing pediatric residency applicants with foundational knowledge surrounding the virtual interview season, well-rounded insight into the benefits of programs by region, devoted time for live Q&A session. We will be transitioning to our breakout rooms shortly. In each room, applicants will be able to learn about some of the programs and ask questions near the end. All the breakout rooms are recorded, so if you're interested in learning about the other programs that are not in your own breakout room, you can check out our YouTube page for the later. You can check out our YouTube page later for the recordings.
And after that, we will move to our resident happy hour. During the resident happy hour, there will be residents and applicants in the breakout rooms to connect, discuss, and get first-hand information about the various programs. Please feel free to grab a beverage or a snack to have some fun conversations. Please note that the resident happy hour portion is not going to be recorded.
Before we proceed, we will invite the APPD representatives from the Mid-Atlantic, New England, and South Atlantic regional states to provide us with a brief overview of the states encompassed within their respective regions. To begin, let's focus on the Middle Atlantic region. Joining us today is Dr. Aaron Shedlock, one of the Middle Atlantic regional co-chairs. Dr. Shedlock, would you kindly initiate this presentation?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. As mentioned, I'm Aaron Shedlock, the Residency Program Director at Penn State Health Children's Hospital. and one of the co-chairs of the Mid-Atlantic region. And in that role, I was asked to speak to you tonight really quickly about a couple of highlights of the Mid-Atlantic region. I serve as co-chair with two others. Gia Bradley here is an associate program director at Sinai in Baltimore, and Jennifer Palmichter at Children's National Medical Center, where she's a coordinator. You can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So geographically, in orange, you can see our Mid-Atlantic region, and we might be the smallest APPD region by landmass, but I still think we're one of the mightiest. As you can see, we're composed of Eastern Pennsylvania, Southern Jersey, all of Maryland, Delaware, Washington, DC, and then Northern Virginia. We have 17 residency programs all crammed in this small geographic region. And you can see we stretch all the way to some of the beaches of the Jersey Shore in Maryland and Delaware, as well as to the Appalachian Mountains of Western Maryland and Central Pennsylvania, and also have the mountains up in the Northeast, Poconos Mountains and Pennsylvania as well. And we have many major cities in this small region, including Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, DC. Next slide, please. So, because we are in a small region in the Mid-Atlantic, it's very easy to get around, whether it's by car, train, or multiple international airports in this region. We also just have a lot of trainees and 17 programs in this region. And so it allows for lots of opportunities for collaboration amongst institutions to do educational endeavors, as well as research and scholarly activities. We're also a very popular region for big conferences. So the National AAP Conference is being held in Washington, DC this upcoming October. Washington, DC also just hosted the Pediatric Academic Society Big Research Conference just this past May. The National Conference for Pediatric Hospitalist Medicine just happened in Philadelphia. The APPD has fall meetings that happen usually in Northern Virginia, but also in Philadelphia as well. So tons of great conferences happen within this region, which is a great learning opportunity for residents to attend or to present at their research or scholarly activity. And then this next slide, I think, is my last one. We range from very large programs, greater than 50 residents in each class, to very small programs. In fact, our newest member, St. Luke's, actually has 6 residents per year. So I guess we can update that next year. We have standalone children's hospitals all the way to floors on adult hospitals. So just a wide variety of places that have fellowships. Some don't have any fellowships. We've got a military program at Walter Reed in Bethesda, Maryland. And we've got anywhere from urban programs to more suburban and rural locations, and all of the socioeconomic and ethnic and special population diversities that are associated with all of that. So one other unique thing about our region is that we have very close proximity to state capitals in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Newark, New Jersey, Dover, Delaware, Annapolis, Maryland, and we also hold the national capital of Washington, DC. And so there's plenty of opportunities for state advocacy as well as national advocacy. And there's a national AAP advocacy conference that happens every spring in Washington, DC as well. So lots of really exciting things happen in a very small region. So thank you for coming to learn a little bit more about some of our programs who will be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sherlock, for such a wonderful presentation of what the Mid-Atlantic region has to offer. Now we will hear from Dr. Corinne Bria, one of the South Atlantic Regional Co-Chairs, who will elaborate on the South Atlantic region. Dr. Bria, the floor is yours.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi. All right. Hi. I am so sorry. I'm joining you from my car right now. Life decided to life tonight, but I didn't want to miss the opportunity to introduce you to a wonderful and warm region of the world, the Southeast region. So I have the pleasure of helping with the Southeast region. The outgoing chair, Inga Aikman, has really mentored and coached me. And then I have the pleasure of mentoring and coaching our vice chair, which is Jennifer King, who is a fellowship director of critical care in Nashville, Tennessee. And so we are really, really excited to present the highlights of the Southeast region. Can I just go to the next slide? All right. And so again, I think that there's something really beautiful about the Southeast region of the United States. We always say, we open a lot of our Southeast region meetings by saying the people of the region, our coworkers, our patients and their families, the communities is really the richest resource that the Southeast has to offer. And so it's a wonderful place to learn medicine. It's a wonderful place to train. It's a wonderful place to sort of lay down your roots, grow your family, and really get involved in your community. Here on this slide, we just showed there's mountains, there's skiing, there's white sand beaches. It really is a region that holds a tremendous amount of potential in terms of suiting your needs for any sort of outdoor living. So Dr. Aikman is our outgoing chair. She's at East Carolina University, and she has done a wonderful job really kind of unifying our area, setting up a dues system so that we can provide scholarship to send medical students and residents to the national APPD conferences. So it's been a really wonderful year working with her. And then there's me. So very, very excited. We are getting things started with a newsletter. We are getting things started with the hopes of an in-person regional conference. So we have a lot of things cooking. And our region is huge. I am a little bit jealous of the region that presented before. But our region is a lot of states. We extend as far north as Virginia, as far south as Puerto Rico. It's just a really diverse and versatile area, but it's a large swath of the country. And I think one of the things that, again, that I just really wanted to emphasize is the warmth of this region, not just temperature, but the people as well. So there is an eclectic diversity that I don't think is as appreciated in this part of the country. The cost of living is incredibly reasonable. There is the most amazing food in all of our major cities and all of our small towns. And then, like I said, I feel like when it comes to, okay, I want to go to the mountains. Okay, I want to see green trees and I want to see fall. And then I want to go to the white sand beaches of the west coast of Florida. We really have it all. So you can experience the temperate areas of the country as well as the more tropical areas of the country within our region. And it really is, there's such a diversity of program size, program type. There's lots of opportunities for global health, learning experiences. There's also a tremendous amount of advocacy efforts and uniting to really support one another, both at the local, regional, and national level for advocacy, that there really is something for everyone. There's big cities. We have, I know, for example, in Orlando, which is where I am based, our tourism medicine, I take care of millions of tourists a year. Some of them are very well. Some of them are in Orlando for Make-A-Wish trips. So there's a tremendous diversity of patients and families that you're going to have the opportunity to take care of, which provides a very rich training so that if you wanted to stay in the Southeast, you could, or if you wanted to go to any other part of the country, you could as well. And I say our people are our richest resource, and that includes our residents. Our residents come from all over the country. I would argue all over the world. And I really think that they really have that complete and that thorough training. With the global health experiences that have been added to a variety of programs in the region, it really complements the curriculum. And we know this is a really stressful time of year. Take a very deep breath and enjoy it. You have already made the best decision ever, which is pursuing pediatrics.
Thank you for your insightful presentation, Dr. Bria. Shifting our focus on the New England region, we are privileged to have Dr. Stuart Mackey with us today. Would you kindly initiate our discussion?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me today. And the other two regional co-chairs are Lisa Del Signori, who's at Tufts University, and Karina Amere, who is at Yale University, who are not able to be here, but also we're excited to be able to have the opportunity to talk about the great things in the New England area. So next slide, if you don't mind. So New England is also a smaller area. We are constituting of Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. And again, much like the Mid-Atlantic that I was talking about earlier, cover everything from mountains to the beaches. And generally things are in very close proximity, which is one of the really nice things about training here, both From a professional standpoint, with lots of great collaboration happening between the regions. We're working now in the Northeast Pediatric Program Directors of creating a global health consortium to help try and share resources between areas, as well as just being able to see really great areas, whether it be the coastal areas in the summertime, or if you like to ski, the slopes in the winter. So it's just a really wonderful area in that way. Lots of, as you can see here, different capitals in the various states where many programs are, to allow for a lot of great advocacy for the residents as well. And a lot of residents do that in the various programs in the region. And also a wide range of urban areas such as Boston, Providence, Portland, Hartford, New Haven, and more rural areas like Hanover, I forgot Burlington as well, in the more urban areas. And so lots of different places to train in terms of diverse patient populations, lots of cultural diversity to the area as well. Next page. Having been a New Englander my whole life, one of the things that I love about it is the 4 seasons that we have. We get gorgeous foliage just in a couple months, unfortunately, since I enjoy the summer as well, but some beautiful places to go on hikes when you have a little bit of free time, skiing in the mountains, which are pretty close to almost every program, I think, not being more than 2 or 3 hours away. Great cities to enjoy, such as Boston, Providence, and the many others that I mentioned before, as well as many quintessential New England towns that have a lot of charm, and it can be really fun to visit for a weekend as well. And one of my favorite places is the beach, and so lots of beautiful beaches and coastal areas as well. So just a lot to offer. And also really great food. I think that's one of the things that I enjoy as well, a lot, probably too much. But there's lots of great places to eat as well in the various regions, and lots of different cultural diversity. So that's mostly all I've got for the New England area, but a really great area with lots of great places to see, and a lot of great work going on with lots of different programs, and a lot of intercollaboration between the programs. I would also echo what was previously mentioned, that take a deep breath, try to enjoy the process as much as possible. There are a lot of great programs. New England area has a wide diversity of both small and large programs in urban and in more rural areas. And so no matter what you're looking for, there really is a program that will fit right for you, even just in the New England area, never mind all the other great programs throughout the country. So welcome today. It's great to have you. I look forward to getting to talk to you guys more. Bye.
Thank you, Dr. Michael, for that presentation. Your insights were truly captivating. I will like now to introduce our participant programs for the night. Attendees, please take a moment to pull out your phones and snap a picture of your screen to easily refer back to when bouncing around breakout rooms. This slide will also remain shared in the main room during the entire webinar.
We will now be going into our breakout rooms. Throughout the webinar, you can ask questions using the chat box on Zoom. You can also amplify insights or what you have learned from the webinar on Twitter using #FPRWebinar and #PedsMatch2024. Afterwards, our amazing program director panel will log off, and a resident panel will join us from 9 to 9:30 p.m. EST to share their experiences and answer any questions from the audience. We will now give everyone a few minutes to join their respective rooms. Welcome everyone to room 1. My name is Divya Ramani and my pronouns are she and her. As I said, I am a research fellow at University of Pittsburgh Children's Hospital currently, and I will be your moderator this evening. I would also like to introduce you to Denise.
Hi everyone, my name's Denise again. I am the Associate Director of Webinars. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a 4th-year medical student from Alabama College of Osteopathic Medicine. And I will be working behind the scenes tonight, so if anyone has any questions, feel free to send them my way.
I would like to invite our program representatives to give a short presentation of their programs for 5 minutes for the first part of this evening, and then we'll take questions after all the presentation. Attendees, you can, however, leave your questions in the chat as we go. We also encourage programs to make use of the chat to answer any questions they can in case we run out of time. To ensure all programs are adequately represented, each presentation is limited to 5 minutes. When you hear my timer go off, please begin to wrap up your thoughts, as that will signify that you have 30 seconds remaining. Our first program for the evening is Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. I would like to invite your representative to please come off mute and tell us about your program.
Hi, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. My name is Janine Ronan. I'm the program director at CHOP. And with me today, I have Dr. Adelaide Barnes, who is one of our associate program directors and our chair for the Intern Selection Committee, as well as Dawn Young, who is our program coordinator and the coordinator of all of our recruitment efforts. So welcome. It's great to be able to tell you a little bit about our program in Philadelphia. As mentioned earlier, we are a very large academic freestanding children's hospital. But I think one of the biggest advantages of CHOP is that we are able to be both that community hospital, and we really do serve the children of West Philadelphia and South Philadelphia, but then we provide lots of tertiary care to the surrounding tri-state area, as well as being a coordinator referral center for kids from all over the world. So while you are training here, you will get a chance to see one room, a patient who's admitted with bronchiolitis, and then a really medically complex patient that's come here to see the specialist and to get their input into how to really manage their care. So a huge range of patient opportunities that are available to you. And I think all of that gets really coupled with really outstanding efforts to really teach you how to be outstanding advocates, as well as be really involved in research efforts too. As mentioned, we are a pretty large program. We have residents that are training in categorical pediatrics combined with some of our combined programs, childology, med peds, and peds genetics. We also, within our categorical programs, have some specific tracks, and that we recruit residents for a global health track. And we have a new advocacy track that's called LEAP, that stands for Leadership, Equity, Advocacy, and Policy. And so residents who are interested, applicants who are interested in those programs should be applying to those separately through ERAS, as well as to categorical pediatrics if they're interested in that as well. I think some of the other strengths or unique aspects of our program is that we incorporate an X+Y scheduling system. And I think we're one of the largest programs to actually actively do that. We're in our 4th year of using X+Y. X+Y really allows you to really focus on the rotation and the experience that you're on. And the Y experiences allow you to have a really comprehensive opportunity to really focus on professional and career development, where you are the primary care provider in your continuity clinic, but also work on your advocacy skills, have time to work on research, and protected time for education, didactics, workshop experiences, and the like. And I think that really allows you a sense to really be able to learn, to process, and to really get the most out of each of the experiences that we have. We have a lot of activities to really sort of make our big program seem small, and I think is one of the disadvantages of not being able to come see the campus and see how supportive and collegial the environment is really to have a chance to talk to the residents and hear a little bit more about that. We are located in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a really great city. We have all the amenities of all the large East Coast cities. And if you want to get to New York or DC or Baltimore, where it's a very short Amtrak ride away. But Philadelphia is also a pretty economical city in that you can actually enjoy all the amenities on the resident salary. We also have a lot of incentives and benefits, I think, that really go a long way to support the residents both inside and outside the hospital. We are very much excited to really recruit a diverse class to be able to support the community. We're very involved in a lot of advocacy programs, and really hope that our residents will go on to be the future leaders in academic medicine. So we want to make sure you leave our program with a really great foundation in general pediatrics, but also have the opportunity to explore all the other aspects of peds, whether that is quality improvement or clinical research or health services research or community advocacy, or how to be a great future leader, understand hospital operations. So we really tried to really have opportunities for you to develop all of those skills within the time that you are here. And with that, I think I will yield the rest of my time. So it looks like we're running a little bit behind.
Thank you so much. Our next program for the evening is Penn State Health Children's Hospital. If your representative could please unmute and tell us a little bit more about your program.
Sure. Thank you very much. As you heard earlier today, I'm Aaron Shedlock, the residency program out here at Penn State. We are located in Hershey, Pennsylvania, about an hour and a half west of our colleagues at CHOP. And we are a medium-sized program, so a little different. We're comprised of 16 categorical pediatric residents per class, as well as an additional 4 med-peds residents per class as well. Our hospital is pretty new. It's a state-of-the-art standalone children's hospital that was built in 2013 and then expanded upon already in 2020. We have the highest levels of PICU and NICU care. We're the only level 1 trauma center in central Pennsylvania. And we also have what I think is pretty unique, an intermediate care unit, which is a step-down unit from the PICU, but a step-up unit from the floors of the children's hospital. This is pretty unique because it's only exists in about 15% of the children's hospital. And I apologize if you can hear my 3-year-old next to me here. Life keeps going on, as someone said, right? The intermediate care unit is only exists in about 15% of our children's hospitals, and it allows residents as early as their first day of intern year to take care of some pretty sick patients, whether they are trach invented or on an insulin drip from treat and treat DKA, continuous telemetry or albuterol. We take care of them there. And a lot of residency programs, you have to wait until your PICU rotation, which sometimes doesn't happen until the end of your second year, to take care of those patients. Here, with supervision from your senior residents and your attendings, you can start doing that on day 1. And so for that reason, I think our residents feel very comfortable taking care of sick patients when they graduate from our program. I'm going to skip down to the bottom bullet point of our 3 words that we chose, which actually are very uniquely similar to CHOP. So I swear I didn't have Janine's slides in advance, but in terms of innovative, at our program, we purposely try to have a choose your own adventure type of experience. We purposely avoid tracks because we found our residents to all be very complex and have unique needs. And the size of our program allows us to meet them. And so we certainly have different sort of concentrations or pathways that residents can choose different rotations from, whether it be rural and underserved medicine or health system science academy or physician scientist training programs, global health and medical education opportunities. But no one is sort of put into a corner in terms of the types of rotations or anything that they have to take. We also have a really unique opportunity here if you're interested in medical education, where you can get a fully funded Master's of Education from our department during residency. It's not easy. It takes a special kind of person to do that, but we have had someone do that and graduate as recently as last year. The second word, I guess, that we chose was individualized. So you heard that we have 16 residents per class, and that allows us to really provide you an individualized experience with excellent mentorship. We've got 3 associate program directors, including, and then myself as a program director. So between the 4 of us, we've got a ratio of 1 PD per 4 residents in each class. And so we meet with them very frequently. We know them very well, and we can support them in any way that they need. Other thing that you may not know is that in 2025, pediatrics is undergoing a major revision in the program requirements, and it's really highlighting this individualized curriculum where the programs are going to have to provide at least 40 weeks of individualized time for each resident. We've been doing that for over a decade. We've actually provided about 1/3 of your residency is individualized curriculum in the form of electives and selectives, and so we're not going to have any problems shifting to that new paradigm once it is finalized for 2025. The last adjective there, collaborative. Everyone works together here as a team. This is a very friendly suburban environment at Hershey, and every one of our rooms is private in our children's hospital, which allows us to do multidisciplinary family-centered rounds for each of our inpatients every day. And residents are extremely involved in numerous organizations and committees, and really are the driving force of what goes on in our residency program in our children's hospital. So if you're interested in recruitment committees, curriculum, development, wellness, QI, community advocacy, DEI, we have them all. And you're certainly can have your passions be continued here that you've been doing all throughout medical school and pre-medical school beforehand. So I guess I'll just finalize on some highlights of our curriculum. I really want to highlight our Milton Hershey School. This is the largest private boarding school in the country. Over 2,000 students attend between K and 12. Our hospital serves those patients, and they all come from underserved backgrounds. And it's really unique. Our residents go and rotate and take care of those kids on their adolescent medicine rotation, as well as their school-based medicine rotation in their third year, and electives as well. And so we really get to help to shape children's lives who come from environments that are have already been unfortunately influenced by social determinants of health and ACEs, which is the reason why they were selected to that school in the first place. So it's a really special opportunity. And we also have sort of sponsored a house where we've adopted a house of elementary school girls, where our residents just basically volunteer and hang out with them every few weeks or so, just to kind of have fun and be a kid again and really mentor them. There's plenty of other unique things you can see here from our curriculum, as well as numerous diversity initiatives that we're always doing, including an Inclusion Academy with lots of lectures. We have a JEDI Council, which stands for Justice, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, that our residents are a part of. And we've got resident delegates that we send to the SMMA and the LMSA national conferences, and a network of underrepresented residents and fellows. So there's a lot of really great stuff happening here. Thank you for the time to talk about them. I'm happy to answer any questions later today. Please follow us on our Instagram that you can see below, and send me an email if you might be interested. And my email is on the website that listed below. Thank you, FuturePedsRes, for hosting us tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Shedlock, for your insightful presentation. Our next program for the evening is Lehigh Valley Health Network. If your representative could please come off mute.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction. Can you hear me okay? I am not Chris Rooney. Chris Rooney is our program director, and she was unable to attend this evening's meeting. So my name is Michael Schwartz. I'm the associate program director. I've been in this role for the last 6 years. And just first of all, congratulations to all the students with us this evening for picking the right specialty. And you certainly have a lot of programs to choose from, and you're going to have wonderful training no matter where you pick, but hopefully you find the right program that fits you the best. Here at Lehigh Valley Health Network, our children's hospital really functions as a full academic institution. We're a regional branch campus for the University of South Florida, and so those students will spend their third and fourth years up at our campus. And so there's a lot of exposure to teaching opportunities with the students. We have over 20 different subspecialty offices, a state-of-the-art, just renovated 12-bed PICU that can flex up to 18 beds, NICU, 24-hour staff children's ER. We also have a brand new state-of-the-art sim lab and education center. And so in this fully functioning kind of academic arena, this is the beauty of our program, is that it's not a big program. We only have 8 residents per class. And so it's a very small, close-knit family feel, and we become family. The residents certainly have very strong bonds, and then you get to know your attendings, and you're working one-on-one with your attendings on your rotations. And so you get that really elbow-to-elbow learning, and you are the first in line for any procedures that are to be done, because there's no fellowship programs at our institution. The other feature is, like the Penn State program, we are very individualized curriculum, and you are sitting down with your program directors and your mentors, and we are building your block schedule in an individualized, meaningful way that is just based on what your clinical interests are and what your career goals are. And about our residents, about half of them go on into primary care pediatrics. And what's very exciting to see is that many of them have joined our pediatric network over the years. And so they just have built onto our community pediatric healthcare system. And the other half, we have a very high fellowship match rate, and they're getting into their top 3 programs. And what's also very exciting is that after their training, so many of them are then coming back to our network and joining us as attending. So it's just really fun to see that full circle go around. As far as Lehigh Valley area, we're about 60 miles north of Philadelphia, and the Lehigh Valley has 3 cities. It's Allentown, Bethlehem, and Easton. And there's definitely, very downtown urban lifestyle. We have fine dining and bars and breweries and wineries, but many of our residents live in the suburban areas, and there's even rural, farmland within 10 miles of the hospital. And so there's plenty of wellness activities to be had. Literally half mile from the hospital, there's a fish hatchery and a 6-mile bike and hike path. And then we've got the Poconos just 15, 20 minutes north of here. A lot of hiking and biking and kayaking and canoeing and fishing and sledding and skiing, et cetera, et cetera. That's all very accessible. You can do right after you're hopefully out for the day around 5 to enjoy. So a lot of emphasis on wellness as well. So yeah, that's a kind of a little nutshell of our program, and we would love to, meet you during this interview season, and we wish you the best of luck. And if you have any questions, just please reach out to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was great. Our next program for the evening is Tower Health St. Christopher's Hospital for Children. If your representative could please come off mute.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Keandra Lewis. I'm one of the associate program directors for our residency program at St. Christopher's. Shireen Kelly is our program director. St. Christopher's is also in Philadelphia. We serve the northeast portion of the Philadelphia city, and we are, I would say, a medium-sized program, on the larger side of medium. We take 24 categorical residents each year, and so although the number may be a little bit large, we do say that we're a community-sized, family-filled hospital. We are a standalone children's hospital, but we have over 40 subspecialties represented. So our residents have a unique opportunity to not only partner with our community pediatric attendings who are just across the street, but they get to work with our inpatient subspecialists too. And so all of our residents come out very well prepared. About half go into fellowship and about half go into primary care as they're transitioning into their career paths. We like to think of ourselves as having two dual strengths, the first of that being advocacy. We say advocacy is our heart. We're thinking about the community and a lot of different aspects and understanding those social influences that also contribute to their healthcare and how they manage and navigate the healthcare system. So we have a lot of different partnerships with community organizations. We go out into the community and we really focus on not only giving back, but partnering with our representatives within the community to think about how we can strategically help our families and our patients to have fulfilling and healthy lives. Our second strength is education. And so we are the house that Waldo Nelson built. So his legacy stays within our institution. There's a lot of emphasis on not only how we teach, but thinking about you all as learners and how you engage in that learning process. So there's a lot of co-curriculums that are developed within our institution to help you with your professional development. We're thinking about how you can showcase your talents, thinking about all the ways that you engage in scholarship and really being able to demonstrate that as a clinician educator throughout the course of your training there. A lot of our residents find this to be really helpful for them as they're going off into their next portion of their career, especially if they're thinking about fellowship, but also thinking about how you can advocate and showcase yourself at a lot of the national conferences that were spoken about earlier this evening. Our curriculum is really focused on individualization, as many of the programs here are talking about. A lot of our residents can do the same exact pathway and can go into the same field, but they would do it in two different ways because we're really dedicated on how do we individualize that experience and catering to those block schedules so that you can have that opportunity. Many of our residents have learned how to build multidisciplinary clinics because that's a hallmark of our institution. We have a lot of clinics that cross-collaborate not only across our campus, but other facilities within the area. Some of our unique clinics that demonstrate that we are one of the only burn units in our area. So our pediatric plastic surgeons partner with our residents and they get to see that unique skill set too. We have a dedicated HIV clinic where not only the patients are seen if their family members are affected by that disease, but there's adult providers there that are caring for the parents. And there's other subspecialists that are adults that help to cater to those growing needs for that full family. So making sure that all of that is within an arm's reach. In our Center for the Urban Child, this is our outpatient practice. We have a lot of those community resources in the clinic too. So we have a women, infants, and children's program so that if our families need that resource, it's easily accessible within the clinic and they're not having to travel across the city to get those additional resources. lots of initiatives that are similar to other programs you've heard here. We have a director of health equity, which is, I will say, an alumni of our institution too. I also am an alumni of our institution, so many of our faculty have been born and raised at St. Chris, and we like to continue the legacy there. But we're really focusing on how do we incorporate strategic emphasis with not only our patients, but also thinking about the people that work at St. Chris so that we can all have equal and be valued in our perspectives and our voices. There are a lot of things to do in Philadelphia. I won't reiterate, but I think we like to say we're a food town and our residents love to eat. So there's a lot of opportunities to go out and do dining, have a lot of fun retreats. I was just answering a text message to tell me what to wear tomorrow. So we're very into styling and profiling together and doing those types of activities. So I will be looking for yellow because I think we're doing the Minions tomorrow, but lots of opportunities to be collaborative and do things together. It is a city, but we're very close to the Jersey Shore. If you like shopping, if you like outdoor activities, there's a little bit of everything within Philadelphia, or maybe just a drive an hour or two away. So really happy to be here, happy to take any questions as we go along throughout the rest of the night. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. Our final program for the evening is New York Presbyterian Hospital, Columbia. If your representative could please unmute and tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Marina Catalazzi, and I'm the Vice Chair for Education at New York Presbyterian Columbia. And joining me is Dr. Shyam Desai, my colleague and Chief Resident, who I'll just take half of this time and he'll take the remainder of it so you can hear about the program. Patricia Willard, our Program Director, is on a much needed vacation. So I'm going to share that we have the Office of Medical Education, Diversity and Inclusion, OMEDI, that I lead with 2 Associate Vice Chairs for Education in Learning Environment and Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And hopefully that can tell you a little bit about where we place our importance. Our 3 program words are supportive, motivating, and inclusive, so similar to the others here. And hopefully that, again, reasserts how important it is that you've chosen PEDS. The second set of 3 words I want to say is New York City. If you are wondering if this is the time in your life to live in New York City, it is. Training is actually a wonderful time to live in New York. There's something to do at any hour of the day. We are situated in Washington Heights, which is the northern part of New York. And Shyam will tell you a little bit more about that. We are in the Department of Pediatrics and provide inpatient care at Morgan Stanley Children's Hospital, which is part of larger New York Presbyterian. And our residents will rotate on electives in many of the offices of Columbia, while the hospital is where our outpatient continuity clinics are within 4 different areas of Washington Heights, Inwood, and Harlem as well. It's really interesting, so many of us are talking about how we individualize. One of the ways we do that is to provide you with time for a scholarly project, and that can be in advocacy, community pediatrics, basic science, clinical research, and residents can actually choose to have in their 2nd and 3rd year a full day of clinic or a half day where that other half day time is spent on their scholarly project in addition to their elective time. We do have a physician scientist track as well. And again, we show this support through many of our well-being initiatives and diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives as well. I'm going to pass it over to Shyam because I feel like it's important to hear a little bit from our Chief Resident about the curriculum and some of the other details.
Thank you so much, Marina. Like Marina said, my name is Shyam. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a Chief Resident at New York Presbyterian Columbia. Very excited to be here. So I'll talk a little bit about our curriculum and some of our diversity initiatives and end with a few details on our location. So as you see here, our curriculum is a balance of inpatient rotations with a focus on medical complexity. You're really seeing people from all over the world with some of the most complex diseases out there in pediatrics, as well as an outpatient community-based longitudinal care. So we're getting to see our local community both in our clinics, and then they really are also the patients who show up to our emergency room. And one was one of the things that I was looking for in a program that I was really happy to see kind of come true here at Columbia. We have a longitudinal resident as teacher curriculum. I love this because as residents, we really are just teachers first, and that we always have medical students with us, as you all have experienced. And so we really get to spend a lot of dedicated time learning how to teach, both throughout the 3 years and then kind of culminating in a teach resident rotation as a 3rd year, which was one of my favorite experiences here at CHONY. And then in terms of community pediatrics, that is also built in throughout our 3-year curriculum, getting the chance to really go out into the local community, both in Washington Heights as well as north of us in the Bronx and really throughout Manhattan. And I think we really see the city as our patient population and who we care for most. And then in terms of diversity initiatives, something that's very near and dear to my heart, we have a department-wide Pediatric Diversity and Inclusion Council with opportunities for resident-based leadership. I was deeply involved and was co-president last year, and truly one of the most memorable experiences of residency for me. We have resident-facilitated anti-racism, LGBTQ+, and other diversity workshops and lectures that, again, are really resident-led and are an institutional part of our program. We have affinity-based group mentorship, and then we have a wonderful annual diversity symposium that happens in February. We invite a speaker, and it really is one of the most heartwarming and insightful experiences that you can have as a resident. And then finally, I'll just end a little bit on location. Our residents live throughout Manhattan. I've lived kind of in different neighborhoods throughout my time here, as well as the surrounding areas, including New Jersey, Westchester, and Long Island. So really, you have a wide variety of options. You have public transport available to you if you choose to use it, and you also can drive in from the suburbs, like I mentioned, and there's parking if you choose to do so. And then while real estate we know can be expensive in Manhattan, residents really have a variety of affordable housing options, including NYP housing, and I think everyone really finds the best fit for them while living in the city. So I'll end there and just saying again that I've truly loved my time here, and I'm excited to get to meet you all later on through the question and answer time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Desai. That concludes the program overview portion of the evening. Now we will open up the floor to a live Q&A session. If anyone prefers to remain anonymous, please feel free to send me or Denise a personal message, and I will address your questions to the program representatives. Our first question for the evening is, how can an applicant tell if they're a good fit for the program? Program director. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think every program, I think you're going to learn fabulous pediatrics and become a great pediatrician really at any program across the country. So there's so many opportunities. So it's really important to find the environment that you thrive in and the work environment that you are going to really do your best in. So it's important to kind of be cognizant of how you process information, how you learn best. And to also think a little bit about the colleagues that you're going to spend a ton of time in. You want to enjoy your time on the floors just as much as you enjoy the time outside the hospital. And so you really want to find a group that you really meld with, that are very collaborative, very supportive, fun to be around, because your colleagues are going to end up being some of the best teachers that you have, and surrounding yourself by people that you really enjoy being with is going to really allow you to make the most out of your residency.
Janine, I couldn't agree more. And I would say really spend that time speaking to residents during the interview day. Speak to colleagues who say, oh, I know someone who trained at such and such place, at St. Chris, at Shoney, wherever it is, because, programs really do keep their, keep people there often, but often those personalities and, finding out if this feels like, the kind of environment you want to be in. Do you like fast paced? Do you like, more intensive care experiences? Do you like more longitudinal outpatient? Which mix of it? I think all of that's important, but talking to people who trained there 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but then are there now, it can also be really helpful.
Thank you. I just got a question. With a step 2 score of 273, experience in home residency, fellowship in pediatrics, multiple rotations in the US, and a current role as a research fellow at UPMC, will my application be filtered by my graduation taking place more than 5 years ago?
I know this is a hard question because every program's different as far as their filters, but most of our pediatric programs have made the sort of the joint decision to have a holistic review. And so we're not looking at scores. Your people we're looking at your full body of work. So there's not one particular area that I would focus on as if I'm looking at an application. I will say we're pretty thorough. Every group has a different way in which they process it. And so there's a lot of different people looking at those applications. There's a lot of nuances and discussion that goes into it, but I wouldn't think just looking at a raw score would determine that. So I don't know that I can give you a clear-cut answer for the breadth of all of the selection and review process.
Thank you. The next question is, how often is geographic connection considered when looking at an application?
I think that's a good question, and I think the challenge that we all have here is representing these 6 programs is it's tough to represent all 220 or so and how they all go through it. But as you all know, last year, ERIS had their first major update in a long time that allows you to do things like signaling your top 5 pre-interview programs and picking some geographic preferences. And so I certainly cannot speak for all of my colleagues, but I do think that there is a general goal for everyone to sort of make this application frenzy less of a frenzy. And I think that programs are very interested in people that are interested in them, just like I think applicants are very interested in programs that are interested in them. And so, again, I can't speak for everyone, but I do think that just doing the advising portion that I do for the medical students at our medical school, it does seem like people were getting more interviews in their geographic preferenced areas than if they didn't.
Thank you. The next question is, what changes are being done to your programs and what are you most excited about?
One response I often have to this is if a program is not changing, I'd actually be worried about it. There is so many with the ACGME changes and with, all of the innovations, we always are really trying to be responsive to our residents, our learners, but also, not disturb the ongoing learning. I think one of the things that has been most exciting in our program is that there's a House Staff Representative Council now, and we have really been able to, they're elected by their class members. We meet regularly and we work on issues together that are important to the House staff. And to me, that has been we've always gotten really great feedback from our House staff, but having that formal structure in place, I think has been really exciting.
I think in response to that question from our programmatic experience, oftentimes we don't have a huge earth-shattering change one year to the next, but the way I've kind of seen our program evolve over time is just constantly making little changes based on the experiences of our residents. And that changes year to year because our residency milieu is always changing. And so I think just allowing space for people to have, transparent conversations as to what experiences they're having that could be improved, and just trying to make things as good as possible for the residents right here, right now. And I think that's probably the spirit in many, if not all, programs in my conversation. So yeah, no huge changes I foresee, but a lot of little changes.
Our particular program at Penn State, we're pretty excited about a new initiative that this year that we have partnered with the Pennsylvania AHEC, which stands for Area Health Education Center. And so we are able now to offer what we call sort of like our an AHEC Scholars Program, which is sort of like a longitudinal customizable elective where residents are able to get hands-on experience working in sort of underserved areas of Pennsylvania with focus on certain providing healthcare to marginalized and rural populations. And so I think it's a really exciting thing. It's sort of like a combination of 80-hour or like hours of like didactics as well as like clinical hands-on experiences that will sort of culminate in a capstone project and ability to sort of present that at a sort of regional conference that's fully funded. So we're excited about sort of having a couple of our residents sort of pilot that this year to really hopefully provide a great service to people in rural Pennsylvania.
Thank you. The next question is for Lehigh Valley. The slide said that you don't sponsor J1 visas. Is that true? And so do IMGs not apply there?
Yeah, we traditionally don't accept those foreign graduates, although there are definitely case exceptions. And so we look at all applications coming in, but for the most part, that is true.
Thank you. The next question is, I would love to hear more about the typical interview day with each program.
I think each program probably has a little bit of nuances to each of their days, but there's probably a lot of general themes that are similar to each. So we always have an opportunity to have a program overview where you sit and meet with myself and other members of program leadership, as well as our chief residents. And we kind of go over a lot of the highlights that we think are really important and what kind of distinguish our program from others. There's usually an opportunity to then meet with the chief residents, to talk to them individually and to hear from them. And then we will have an opportunity for you to meet with residents both during the day as well as a social happy hour virtual Zoom extravaganza at nighttime. So you can get some of those more personal and nuanced questions and really get a feel for what the residency is like. And then we always have 2 interviews that people will be participating in. And those interviews are really designed to really kind of get a sense of you as an individual. What's your passion for pediatrics? Why are you choosing it? What do you want to go into? Are you the great team player with great communication skills that really will thrive sort of in the program? But really the whole idea, I think so much of it is for you to really get a good sense of the program as much as you can over a screen. And I would just urge you also, I think we've done a lot, all the programs have, with developing a lot of materials that you'll get. And so the more you're able to kind of review some of those, I think you'll kind of have a better sense of what the program is like and be able to ask some different questions related to that.
Thank you. The next question is, what are you looking for in an applicant during the interview process?
I think the big overarching goal is just to get to know you as an individual and as a fellow human being, and trying to get a sense, are you somebody who would, what are your interests in our program, in our location, and just really getting to know you as a person more than what we can read in your ERES application. And so it's, we'd like to fill the interview portion of our day with just having good conversations with leadership and with our current residents.
I think a lot of the applicants, your standout qualities are what you've been displaying that got you into medical school and at this point, right? So we're really looking forward to knowing who you are as an individual, as our colleagues have said, but we also want to see how interested you are in the learning process. And what makes each program unique is that you'll find that niche there and show how you're dedicated in that sphere. Our program director always talks about how much it's a part of her day to learn something from each of the students and the residents that are there. And I think that's a hallmark of what we're all looking for too. We want to be thoughtful about us, how we're teaching you, but we also expect to learn from you all too. So I think that collaborative nature, good communication, and especially your thoughtfulness with patients and your thoughtfulness with your colleagues.
That makes sense. Thank you. The next question is, our program only doing Zoom interviews or also in-person interviews?
So for equity reasons, the professional societies have come to an agreement that all the interviews will be Zoom this year. And so I think that's really important for us to not have to worry about flying across the country or taking time out of work or school. And so, again, as I think Kendra was just saying, it's a mutual experience. Like, we're speaking to each other to learn about each other. And we really encourage you to take advantage of things like the happy hours or events that you're invited to, or if residents share their phone numbers or emails, really following up on that to be able to learn as much as possible about the program, and knowing that some of your questions won't be answered in that moment because you may not even have the questions until a week or two or a month later. So really trying to take advantage of that can be helpful.
Thank you. The next question is, having clinical experience in home country and in the US, some posters and also some oral presentations, but without publications, would that play a major role in not making an applicant to stand out?
I think I'd go back to the concept of holistic review and how, I think Janine, you wrote this in the chat, that we really truly do a holistic review. We're really looking at the whole applicant. And so there's not one thing that would be, oh, this is missing, and so that person won't be considered. I think personal statement, letters of recommendation, all of those are just such an important piece of creating the picture of who you are and who you will be as a resident.
Yeah, and I would echo that. And, I find having just really intriguing conversations with interviewees during the season about just, if they've taken time off in between college and medical school, what was that experience like? And nothing can replace that kind of real world experience as a background foundation to your medical career. And so I think that holistic review and life experiences, that's wonderful as somebody who's done research and done publications and presentations. That's equally fascinating in our perspective.
That makes sense. The next question is, will any of the programs be participating in an in-person second look to help get a better feel for the program before rank lists are due?
I know our program is not going to be participating in that, just again for equity reasons.
Yeah, and I just to sort of echo some of my colleagues there, every year for the last couple of years since COVID, there's been sort of a letter that has gone out that's sort of a joint agreement and recommendations from the Association of Pediatric Program Directors, COMCEP, the pediatric chairs. Everyone sort of has put their heads together to provide recommendations for all of the applicants and all of the residency programs. And they have very specific things about sort of like the virtual interview recommendations. And they typically also have recommendations about the second looks as well. And so I think that what I really love about pediatrics and the leadership of our field that they've done in the last couple of years was really take an approach to focus on not only the holistic review, which you've heard about a ton, but also just sort of equity for all applicants. Like it turns out that, it's really nice to be able to give an equal playing field for someone from Washington to be able to interview at a couple of programs in Florida. And I think that the second looks is also, could potentially cause an equity problem too, because obviously many applicants will not be able to afford to sort of do a lot of those too. So I think that the recommendations have sort of not recommended those.
Thank you. We will be taking one last question for the evening since we have already approached the hour. The question is, how IMG friendly are your programs, and is there a specific filter on the year of graduation?
I think one of the important pieces is, has the applicant stayed close to clinical work in some way, and that can look like lots of different things. But I think particularly for a program that's quite busy or larger, knowing that they have had some adjacency to patient care and in some way, and that can look like lots of different things, but that can be really important to put across on a application.
You guys have great questions.
Perfect. I think those were almost all the questions we had. Hopefully everybody got a chance to learn a little bit more about what Mid-Atlantic, New England, and South Atlantic programs have to offer. We want to repeat how grateful we are to all the program directors, coordinators, and other representatives who took the time to join us tonight. We will now request our program representatives to kindly log off as we transition into the resident panel portion of the evening.
Attendees, please take a moment to pull out your phones and snap a quick picture in the screen if you have not done so already. This will allow you to refer back to when bouncing around breakout rooms. This slide will also remain sharing the main room during the entire webinar. I'd also like to offer attendees some guidance with navigating within the breakout rooms. To join a different breakout room, select breakout room and then join the breakout room of your choice. To return to the main room, select leave the room and leave breakout room. I just want to confirm that the screens are being recorded. And we can start. So welcome everyone to room 2. My name is Denise Moncada. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm international medical graduate from Ecuador, and I'm serving FPR as an assistant director of webinars.
Hey everyone, I'm Alex Aguirre. I'm an IMG from Ecuador, and I'm serving as the associate director of research, and I'll be working behind the scenes today.
I would like to invite our program representative to give a short presentation of the program for 5 minutes for the first part of the evening, and then we'll take questions after all the presentations. Attendees, you can, however, leave your question in the chat as we go. We also encourage programs to make the use of the chat to answer any questions in case we run out of time. To ensure that all the programs are equally represented, each presentation is limited to 5 minutes. When you hear my ringer, please begin to wrap up as that will signify that you will have 30 seconds remaining. Okay, our first program of the evening is UMass Chant Baystate. I would like to invite your representative to mute and tell us about your program.
Hi, I'm John. I'm actually one of the assistant program directors at Baystate, or UMass Chant Baystate. I'm here representing our group. Erica London is also a program coordinator with us today. Our program director is Molly McNally. And so Molly and I are actually old residents of the program. Molly did her medical school training and chief year there. And we both have left. I went off the fellowship and then came back, and both now have the opportunity to kind of return where we trained, work beside the people who helped train us, to kind of work on training the next generation of pediatricians to follow. We're not a 50 resident plus size like CHOP is. There are 9 PD residents a year. There's also 8 med peds residents a year. So we're sort of a moderate sized program. And about half of our residents are going off to primary care, but half of our residents are going off to fellowship. And so we can really kind of support goals in either direction. We're really focused on what do you want to do in pediatrics, and let's get you there. We're really pushing a strong outpatient continuity experience. The idea is that you are seen as the PCP, the person who's taking care of the patients in your clinic from day one, and that continues for the 3 years of your residency also. I can attest to this as I got to see some of my newborns from the newborn nursery kind of grow over the couple of years in my residency. It's actually kind of hard to say goodbye to the people because you've really seen them from the day that you met them in the nursery to almost their 3rd birthday when you're leaving. So it's really kind of nice to have that, which is part of the beauty of pediatrics. The clinic itself is it's busy. There's a lot of support there with an integrated care coordination team. There's a food pantry that is on site, and integrated behavioral health on site, which has actually been nice to do a lot of the more handoffs to the behavioral health specialists when things come up within the clinic to ensure that patients and the families are getting support. One of the most unique aspects about our program is this idea of a second site, a second continuity site. And it could be in an area that you want to focus more on, or maybe that's your career interest. For me, I got to spend an extra half a day in the hematology oncology office, which was great. It was the best part of the week. I got to do the stuff I was most excited about, and that's ultimately what I'm in now. I mean, it's a great way to dive into something a little bit more in terms of specialty that can be about a fellowship, but also how can you expand some of the primary care knowledge. Our residency clinic is a primarily urban and underprivileged group that is being cared for. But maybe you see a rural population, maybe you see some different practice models that are there. Also, you can utilize some of the specialty offices. Maybe you get really good at adolescent management, maybe you get really good at adolescent medicine, and maybe that's the focus that you want to have in your primary care track and career. Then you can sort of become the expert yourself in those areas. And these experiences can also lead for opportunities for jobs and also down the road. We really have driven it so that residents are the primary care takers and the first people to do procedures. We do not have fellows running around scooping up all the procedures. We are having the residents, we are the first line. You get to do the LP, you get to do the intubation, and these are the opportunities you get to have in our program. And then we kind of want to work on how to improve things and how do we help the residents grow, how do we change and improve our program along the way. And so we are looking to get feedback and to adjust and change as we go. There's one standard way, and nothing's that done. And I think we kind of build that into our doing ones in balance. Our committee, our planning wellness sessions, and that's built into our academic half day, which is a protected time during our week community and education. On site, we do have a therapist that is embedded into the residency. Residents can go to that individual person's support or offer coverage for your retreat. I think some of the main things, remember, there's not a lot of fellows who get first opportunity to do everything. We're the PCP, and we have a unique opportunity for you to get 4 extra hours a week for doing things that you love the most. Those are some of the things that to do. So please let us know if there's anything else. Reach out to us. We're happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing such an insightful presentation of your program. We would like to give a couple of minutes to attendees to join in the breakout room. And we can move on to UMass Chan Medical School Worcester representative to unmute and present their program.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tina Hermos. I'm one of the associate program directors for UMass Chan in Worcester. I am pinch hitting for Mike. His car didn't start and he was in his office ready to join, and then AAA called and said we're here, so he had to run out, so I apologize for that. So I'm excited. I'm happy to go after UMass Chan Baystate. We are sister programs in many ways, so we have a lot in common, so I'll try to highlight some of our differences too. So we're the major pediatric referral center for Central Mass. Baystate sort of has Western Mass, and then there are the programs in Boston. So we have a huge encatchment area ranging from southern New Hampshire down to the northern towns in Rhode Island and Connecticut. Worcester, it is not well known that Worcester is the second biggest city in New England in terms of population. It's an incredibly diverse place. We have immigrant groups from every continent on the planet, with some large immigrant groups from Ghana, from Saudi Arabia and other areas of the Middle East, the Philippines, Brazil, and all over Central and South America. So it's a really incredible place to take care of patients. I do infectious disease, so I do inpatient, outpatient. Every room I go into in the clinic or doing consults, you have different languages being spoken, different health literacy. We have our translators on wheels, which we use all the time. So it's a kind of an awesome place to practice the art of medicine, in addition to seeing really cool, not always cool for the patients, but a lot of diverse pathology as well, with a lot of tropical diseases coming in, and a lot of zebras coming through the door. What we love about practicing is we are the level 3 referral center. So we have all the subspecialties represented. And so we get to see, like I said, the zebras and the chronic illnesses, but there's so much bread and butter peds that comes in as well. So with our residents don't need to spend time at community hospitals, because we're sort of like the community hospital and the major referral center as well. So you have that full spectrum of disease acuity. our continuity clinic, we partner with primary care practices all over Worcester and the suburbs. And we hold like a second match after you match with our program, where you can interview, two-way interview with all the primary care practices that are accepting new residents that year. And have a little mini rank, and most people get their first choice depending on what size practice or if they want it to be near where they're living. And so that works out really well. And we do a lot of continuing medical education for our preceptors as well. And many of them have been with us for a generation. We have a strong emphasis, of course, as well on resident wellness. We have a wellness committee. We have like little volleyball outings outside. We're located right on Lake Quinsigamond. So in the nice weather, we bring the residents down to the lake and try to do outdoor activities during the day as well. We like to emphasize the size of our program, similar to Baystate, where we're 8 pediatrics per year and then 4 med peds. So we get into like a medium-sized program with the med peds, so about 40 residents total. The fellowships that we offer are limited and we think only value added, while giving the residents like full access to their attendings and the ability to function as fellows in a lot of the inpatient rotation. So we have 1 NICU fellow per year, 1 ED fellow per year, an international health fellow every other year. And we have a pretty new, it's only 2 years old, Gen Peds / advocacy fellowship as well, which is really exciting. And they're bringing in a lot of outside funding for advocacy research. So again, the residents like in the ED, in the PICU, their first call for procedures and get a lot of like one-on-one time with our attendings. Of course, about half our residents also go into fellowship. It's pretty uncanny every year. It's about 4 and 4. And a couple med peds do pediatric specialties. And so some of the acute care is really sort of favored. People love going to the NICU. Am I out of time? Was that my timer?
30 seconds, yes.
Okay. So they work really, the residents going to fellowship work really closely with their mentors. We schedule them, audition times away if they want to look at the big centers that do ECMO, for example, if they're going into the PICU. So we really make it like the experience individualized for the resident. The residents are immediately, and they join a mentor family. So instead of just having 1 faculty mentor, we have a mentor family with 4 faculty mentors, and then a 2nd year and a 3rd year resident as well. So that's our mentoring model. So thank you for listening.
No, thank you so much. We appreciate all your detailed presentation about your program. We will have a brief pause, and up next is Mass General for Children. The floor is all yours.
Wonderful, thank you. So I'm Sean Fitzgerald. I'm the program director here at Mass General for Children. I'm also joined tonight by my colleague, one of our associate program directors, Kate Sparger. So 5 minutes, I think, is a short period of time. So I'll try to express everything that we love about our program with everyone. But first of all, I want to just thank everyone from FuturePedsRes for putting together this event. This is really an amazing event, one we really look forward to every year. So thank you for all the effort you put in to doing that. So we are a medium-sized program, much the same as our colleagues at UMass, both in Worcester and out there at Baystate as well. We have about 40 categorical residents. We have 2 to 3 prelim year residents. So those folks that are looking to do just 1 year in pediatrics before going on to something like dermatology, et cetera. And then we also have a number of combined programs as well, combined track programs. So we have a child neurology, a child psychiatry program, and a med peds program. So with all of those residents together, we get to be like a medium, teetering on maybe being a somewhat larger program, but not certainly a very large program. And what we really love is the size of our program. I think it's very conducive to having a very tight-knit community, not only amongst the residents, but also amongst the faculty. Faculty know residents really well, residents know faculty really well, and I mean that both personally and professionally. So it's really a wonderful place to train. You feel that people are really are there to support you and are easily accessible. We also have 4 fellowship programs as well, and so you do have the opportunity of working also with fellows and all that they can lend to your training as a resident as well. So to highlight, I think some of the more unique parts of our program, the parts that we really like, we really have a very robust simulation program. We really think that it is a wonderful adjunct to the clinical training that you're going to get in our clinical learning environments. And we have a multitude of simulation programs. We have one that is based around clinical reasoning, another one based around teamwork and teaming and psychological safety. And then we also have one in developing your leadership skills in urgent and emergent situations. And so some of those happen in our clinical learning environments. Many of them happen within our dedicated learning lab with our high fidelity mannequins. It's really, I think, a wonderful complement to the robust experience people get in the inpatient environments and the outpatient environments. Which I should speak to. We really see a breadth of patients, from the very, very rare, the ones that travel from all corners of the globe to come to Mass General to get some specialty care at one of our dedicated centers. That deal with either a specific medical condition or genetic condition, or in our centers that serve a specific patient population. So people really travel far and wide to come here. But we also serve the communities here in Boston and north of Boston and further reaches both to our west and to our north, to our neighbors up in New Hampshire especially. A lot of folks come to get tertiary care services at our hospital as well. So we see the bread and butter pediatrics to the really rare fascinomas that you may be the only time that you see this medical condition in your careers. We really consider ourselves to be very lucky to be able to enjoy that breadth of patients. Also, within Mass General, within the larger system, Mass General Brigham, our pediatric department serves the most diverse population within our entire system. We really see that as a gift and an opportunity. And we really understand that there is a responsibility that we have, both as a residency, as well as our residents themselves, as well as our faculty, to really advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in everything that we do. So our residents lead our health equity grand rounds. They also participate in a simulation program, again, simulation, in upstander training. So not only do we learn how to, the best practices, but we actually get to practice them in a psychologically safe way, and we get feedback from our faculty who are especially trained in how to debrief those trainings and those simulations. We also have a really robust resident educator curriculum that takes place in the third year. And that's really, honoring the fact that as pediatricians, we are by nature teachers as well. And so we really provide a dedicated curriculum to build our residents' skills as educators. That is my time. I think if there's one thing that I would say about our program in wrapping this up, is that we are that tight-knit community. Our residents lead a lot of the work here, and we are really committed to constantly changing so that our curriculum and evolving our curriculum so that we can meet the needs of our ever-evolving patient population. And one other thing, if I could just kind of point out, we understand that living in Boston is expensive. And so to help defray some of those costs, there's several programs. We have recently increased our salary and our benefits so that we are one of the more competitive salaries on the market. We also have an additional $10,000 stipend that residents are able to use at their discretion, and that is available yearly. And then we also have programs for individuals who qualify for and may have experienced economic disadvantage in their life. To create or to be able to access additional funds to be able to support the high cost of living here in Boston.
Thank you. We appreciate the in-depth insights about your program. Now let's direct our attention to our next program, Boston Combined Residency Program.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ted Sektish. I'm the program director at Boston Children's, and Chris Cheston and I are partners. She's at Boston Medical Center. I'm going to start us off. We're a large program, but not the largest, but we're in a process of acquiring other programs. So we may be the largest in the next 10 years. Who knows? I think the most important thing for you to understand about our program is that we never think that we're where we should be. We're constantly evolving, trying to get better. I think that it's a large program, but within our program, you'll find your own way as a resident. You'll find your own interests. You'll find faculty members who will mentor you. And I think it's a wonderful place to train. I trained here many years ago, and I came back after 26 years in California to take on the leadership here. And it's truly a privilege to serve all the residents and this program. One of the most important new things we're doing is starting a coaching program. And that's going to give every resident in the program a faculty mentor who they'll meet with 6 times a year. That's to provide them with the feeling of being seen and heard and really personally instructed in how to get better. And that's something we've been thinking about for a long time and finally had the opportunity to start. I think that's the most exciting thing we've done in a long time. Who knows what's going to happen when the new program requirements happen, but we'll deal with that by 2025. Let me turn it over to Chris Cheston to tell you more about our program.
Hey guys, I'm Chris. As Ted said, I'm the BMC-based program director for the BCRP. And I think just to give you guys the big picture sort of 360 view of our vision in this program, it's really, the goal is to train the next generation of pediatric leaders to care for an ever more diverse and complex pediatric patient population. And I think number 1, number 2, number 3, actually, I think all PDs and APDs on this call would say this about their program. The number 1, number 2, number 3 reason to come to the BCRP are the people and your residents, your co-residents. But right behind that is, I think, your opportunity to clinically train at 2 exceptionally wonderful institutions that are very different from one another, but very complementary in the end, right? You have Boston Children's Hospital, where Ted is based, and Ted has been a hospitalist for a long time. That's at the leading edge of innovative, pioneering pediatric medicine, research, innovation. And then you've got Boston Medical Center, who is a bedrock and safety net hospital for the communities of Boston that have been here both for generations and the communities that are just building and forming. And between those 2 places, I guarantee you there is not a patient that you will not see here in this training program that you then can take into your future careers as pediatric leaders. So as Ted said, how do we do it? We focus on listening to our residents. I would say there are times when that pendulum swings a little bit too far and we have to course correct. But we do a lot of innovative and exciting new things in the way that we educate. And it's because we listen to what our residents are telling us we need to do and how we need to change. We also have a huge amount of individualized time. So like Ted said, we support every combined training program that exists in pediatrics. If the ACGME will approve it, we will do it. So peds neuro, peds genetics, NDD, med peds, anesthesia, all of it. In addition, our core curriculum includes a ton of time for you to make residency training what you want it to be. So we have a keystone quarter in our first year where you are focused on adolescent medicine, developmental pediatrics, and advocacy, and they are integrated all longitudinally over a 12-week time course, 6 weeks in the first half, 6 weeks in the second half. There's also a lot of protected time to explore the neighborhoods and communities of Boston, many of which are new to most of our trainees. Oh my goodness, there's so much more to talk about. I'll wrap it up just by adding that anti-racism and equity are a core value of what we do, and we try and put our money where our mouth is and walk the walk and not just talk the talk. So we have funded anti-racism APDs with protected time to longitudinally move that work forward. We fund a really amazingly robust diversity council, which is resident driven, but program supported, along with many other ways that we provide individualized mentorship for our UIM residents, and are constantly trying to build a more inclusive culture at both hospitals and in the residency program. So if you remember one thing about the BCRP, remember that we are a family. Even though we are big, we are a family, and we are intentional about that. And we're really excited to meet you guys during this interview season.
Okay. Thanks so much both for walking us through the specific to your program. Now we would like to continue with Dartmouth-Hitchcock.
Hi, everybody. My name is Carolyn O'Day, and I'm the program director up at Dartmouth-Hitchcock Medical Center in Lebanon, New Hampshire. Unlike the other programs that have spoken, we are much more of a rural-based program. We are also a small program with 7 residents per year. And despite that, I think we really provide a robust training in pediatrics, and like a number of the other smaller programs, without fellows, our residents are first in line for procedures, caring for patients, and direct contact with our attendings, which is always pretty amazing. We are the sole tertiary care center for the children of New Hampshire. We are combined in that we are the referral center for the state as well as much of Vermont. But then we are also the hospital that supports the local community, which has both Dartmouth College and Ivy League University, as well as our medical center and a number of other startups and tech companies that have sort of grown from the community. We really pride ourselves on the scholarship opportunities for our residents. We might be small, but we are a robust academic medical center with opportunities for collaboration with the Dartmouth Institute, which is really focused on public health, as well as the engineering and business schools at Dartmouth College right down the road, and our medical school as well. We have a long history of resident mentorship. All of our interns get paired up with a faculty member who they work with throughout their 3 years, both in sort of the mentorship of the life of residency, but also life outside and what a career in medicine looks like. We support wellness, as everybody does. It's a huge focus in pediatrics, and I think in pediatrics we're lucky that we're able to have the time to really think about what our residents need, and so this has evolved to a number of things. We are in an X+Y scheduling in a 3+1 model, so 3 weeks in a core experience followed by 1 week outpatient experience. Within that week, there's always a downtime half day that allows residents a little bit of flexibility for things that range from doctor's appointments to car appointments, to just taking a walk in the woods, which we always say is a good thing, or getting down to the city if that's the thing that's filling your cup on a particular week. And then we have a GME funded in-house psychologist that serves not only our program, but all of the GME residencies and fellowships at our institution, and is accessible and open, which I think is actually an incredibly important part to be able to talk to somebody. Despite our rural setting, we also are a program that sends about half of our residents to fellowship, with about half going into general practice. In a small program, I always say I have to look over kind of a 4 to 5 year period to see that average. Something that I'm incredibly proud of is that our residents going into general pediatrics, many of them are serving our rural populations of our surrounding communities. And so I'm a neonatologist, they leave, and I have full confidence that they're going to successfully resuscitate a baby in the community while they're on the phone with me, and I'm sending my team up to get them. But that experience and that confidence is something that I think is incredibly important, and we're fortunate to feel like we provide that to our residents as they walk out the door. I also feel equally lucky that I've prepped them well in terms of autonomy and team leadership if they're headed to fellowship and the next step of their training and careers. We're also fortunate to be a member of the Northern New England Advocacy Collaborative with our friends at the University of Vermont and Maine Medical Center, 2 other small Northern New England programs. We have an annual conference in September every year, which rotates, and we've done a lot of collaboration within the 2, or rather the 3 programs around projects across our 3 states, which are similar but different. And the needs of our patients, I think we've both brainstormed on how we can help each other, but then also work together on common issues. I mentioned research in terms of curriculum. That is sort of a broad definition. So we have residents who really focus on advocacy projects, others with quality improvement, and then others with sort of a more classic research project. And both within the Y week as well as just in our individualized curriculum, there's a fair amount of time for residents to accomplish that. We also welcome international grads. If you look at our website, we've got a mix of allopathic, osteopathic, and IMGs, and we do welcome visas as mentioned here. And then I'll just end, being a small program, I think everyone has echoed this. The people that you meet in residency are really the foundation and what make your residency experience what it is. And we're fortunate to have excellent residents, excellent faculty, and interdisciplinary team members that really love to collaborate. So I look forward to meeting you in the interview process, and good luck. It is a lot, but a lot of fun. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing the insight of your program. And that concludes the program overview portion of the evening. Now we will open the floor to our live Q&A. If anyone prefers to remain anonymous, please feel free to send me a personal message or to Alex, and I will address your question to the program representative. Okay. We can stop sharing so everyone can see. So our first question for the night for the programs, we got it from the people that registered tonight. What is something about your program that you're proud of, and what is something that you're working to improve? What are the strengths and weaknesses that made your program unique?
So I can start. We used to think that our program was hard, but not too hard. And lo and behold, we got citations from the ACGME for workload. So we're working on this. We're trying to really decrease the stupid work that residents have to do by decreasing documentation requirements, hiring medical team associates, and being cognizant of how many patients residents can care for at any one time, weekday, weekend, overnight. And we're committed to doing that. So we've made major strides, but we still have more work to do.
And I won't say something new, but I'll just add, I talked about how we have swung in different directions a little too much. We actually got to the point where our PHM weekend team said, we think there's too many residents here. We actually think that we don't need as robust staffing. So as a specific tangible example of the way that we have made changes to I wanted to share.
I'm happy to go next. I think one of the things that came out of, I think, the surge that all of us experienced was the workload. And while we're always open to feedback, I think trying to gather it in a more formalized process and coming up with solutions is something that we've changed. And so the creation of various task forces and committees that a representative from each class, both med peds and pediatrics, sits on, to be a representative for their individual class, is helping allow everyone to have a voice and a representative and come up with common solutions. I think the thing that we're sort of most proud of is the second side of the extra continuity site that we talked about, where we can really you can focus in on, we can support any specific career goals and interests that we have to pursue.
I can go. Thanks for giving me time to think for my answer to choose. So UMass Worcester. I think what I'm most proud of recently is sort of the collegiality and wellness efforts and grit that the residents have showed, moving from like COVID to the psychiatric crisis to the RSV crisis. And I mean, if anything, I've just seen our residents become closer as people, and it's just been like very moving to see. And I think that the faculty have really rallied behind our residents, and every year on Resident Appreciation Week, there's just been a lot more recognition of our residents, and we take a donation and do something to make their lives better, like something for the call room. So that's been really great. And I think that will persist after hopefully these crises stabilize. Something that I think we are working on is, I mentioned the new fellowship in general pediatrics, which has a big advocacy focus. And then in parallel, we've been working on our QI curriculum. And I will these things so that our residents are getting scholarly credit for the advocacy work that they're doing, and they're starting to use the QI model for their advocacy work. So we want to push our residents more to get recognition for the advocacy work in a scholarly way.
I'm happy to go next. I think the thing that we're most proud of in our program is our ability to really individualize the experience for each one of our residents. So that is in our coaching program and our mentorship program, our ability to meet with our residents frequently to help them over the arc of their time here in training, really develop their path towards the career that fulfills them the most. And again, I think it comes down to, I think as many folks have here mentioned tonight, it's really the people that make a program. And I think that certainly holds true for us, and our residents really feel a part of that community. And I think that is our greatest strength. The areas that we are really working on is very similar to what Ted had said. Our residents are, shouldering a large workload in our inpatient environment, especially in our pediatric wards. And in a similar fashion, we've worked alongside our residents, as well as the multiple disciplines that render care in our inpatient environments, to figure out a way to align workflows, to bring more resources to deal with administrative burdens that come with patient care. And to think about how we can take the existing resources we have and distribute them in a way that makes things run a little bit more smoothly. And in all of this, making sure that we are maintaining education as a priority in that experience as well. So it is certainly, as waves of RSV come kind of sort of crashing on our shores, and stresses our hospital resources. We are constantly looking for ways that we can ensure that workload is shared across the department, across the institution, and not focused just on residents. So that is the area that we are working most on addressing.
And I'll just briefly, this is Carolyn O'Day from Dartmouth. I would say the thing that we've been most sort of proud of and enjoyed in the last year was kind of for us coming out of that virtual world around education. We've talked a lot about sort of the clinical spaces, but it was clear we lost a lot when we had to sort of educate remotely in the height of COVID. And so we really feel like there's kind of been that robust return of our faculty and resident engagement in all types of didactics and simulation, like the learning across the board, whether it's in our academic half day and our Y week or those noon to 1 didactics within our department. Again, the beauty of a small department, everybody was kind of ready for it. The challenges that exist for us remain being in a rural location and ensuring that we're providing a really broad experience. And I'm super lucky because I've got Ted down at Boston Children's who welcomes my second or third year residents for a couple of weeks in their PICU if that's something that they're looking for. And not just at Boston, but we've got that opportunity for away rotations. And my institution recognizes that because of where we are, sometimes that's really important for residents to augment for whatever their individualized path is. So thanks, Ted. I always love it, but and I know our residents do as well.
All right, thank you for your answers. We have a couple of questions in the chat. One of them is, what are some of the must-haves for IMGs?
I'll chime in. I think just because of the number of IMGs, it's hard to review them all in detail. So if there's any way, this is my honest advice that I would give to an IMG who's a close friend. If there's any way that someone you worked with can maybe, get your name to be looked at, like if you're doing research here, maybe your PI could email one of us or something, just because it is hard to get to them in terms of the numbers. When we've had previous IMGs from your school, that tends to help because we look a little closer at your school when we have a good relationship. So those are just some of my tips on the side.
We will sponsor H1B, and so you must have step 3, and you've got to do it before March so the whole licensing process works, because we want to make it as flexible for you after residency, whether you want to stay here, go to fellowship. So we try to sponsor H1Bs rather than J1s, and we'll pay for it.
Some of the dean's letters or MSPEs don't have as many details about like your clinical, because just because of the nature of the school, it might be like that your clinical was more remote. So if that's the case in your MSPE, like just make sure your letters of rec like really talk about like your clinical capabilities, taking care of patients, that type of thing.
I also think that if you've had any experience doing externships in the stateside, to really highlight that, and especially whether that be like somewhere in your CV or whether that be in your personal statement, perhaps. Also, I think your personal statements really should in fact be personal, right? It doesn't necessarily just have to be a recapitulation of your CV. We want to hear about your life experiences, the stuff that has driven you into medicine. Those are things that can oftentimes make applications stand out in our minds as we are reading many of them. And so I would certainly recommend that. And if there are programs that you're interested in, it's always, I think this is maybe something that's in the chat as well, is reaching out to see if there are opportunities either for in-person or there's a growing number of programs that are also offering virtual electives too. We offered one last year and we hope to offer it again this year. And it's an opportunity to get to know the faculty of an institution and for them to get to know you a little bit as well, because the IMG pool, as everyone has mentioned, is pretty large. And so these are all things that can really help your application stand out.
Okay, yeah, thank you for participating and answering. I think we have a couple of questions, but they have already been answered in the chat, so thank you. We can move to our next question is, how can an applicant tell if they are a good fit to your program?
I can start. I think as you're interviewing on that day, having a chance to speak with faculty members, program leadership, chief residents or residents, I think try and see if there's sort of your people and like you. And I think that's kind of, I don't know, where you kind of like feel like your people are, where you feel like you can be. And I think that is kind of the vibe that you're getting. And it's harder on Zoom. It really is. But I think as you're talking with people, we're sort of feeling some of those connections and how people are connecting with you. Are they interested in your story? Are they looking at your application? Are they invested in you and they're invested in them? And I think that's how you start to feel where one place or another may be a better fit for you.
Okay, thank you. So let's dive into our next question. How can an applicant stand out? Top qualities of most desired applicants versus a strong pediatric residency application.
Can you repeat the second part?
Sure. The top qualities of the most desired applicants versus a strong pediatric residency application.
I can start. I think I was typing this in the chat, but I want to focus on this. I think in the BCRP, we're really focused on people who have both demonstrated clinical excellence and intention to be outstanding clinicians, and that is sort of the center focus of what they want to achieve in residency. But really, the only other thing that we sort of look at and find, I think, standout folks to come to our program is a demonstrated passion for something. Like fill in the blank about what that is. Passion for clinical care. It can be a passion for basic science, a advocacy and advancing equity. It can be a passion for the community, whatever it is. But that sort of longitudinal demonstrated commitment and drive to improving pediatric healthcare are really the two major things that we talk about and debate over and over again in our selection committees. I was typing in here, but just to be clear, we don't use step scores for cutoffs. In fact, we use no cutoffs. We read every application page by page that comes into ERIS, which is why our interviews go out so late. But
I also think thinking about, and this answers like a number of questions in the chat potentially. So, be mindful of where you are applying. And I sort of laughed last year with the preferences of geography. So it is hard because the regions are big. But I would chuckle as a rural person that, somebody would sort of go in great depth about their desire to be in a big city, urban population. And so that would, if you choose to say that at times would sort of influence the way I might read an application a bit. And then I think that's the point of that process, to help programs figure out what people's intentions are and sort of what their goals are and where they might like to train. So I do think thinking about that, you also have those opportunities to highlight things in your application off your CV. And so I think that's a way to have you stand out. And I totally agree with Chris, like highlight those things that tell your story or show that commitment to a specific area. And then lastly, as Sean said, your personal statement is an opportunity. And if there's a specific reason, you have your global personal statement, but if there's something that is important to you about a program or a region or whatever it might be, you can include that in your personal statement. We are all reading all of your applications. So if you take the time to put it in, particularly in a personal statement, somebody will see that. And so just recognizing that is an additional opportunity to sort of raise yourself up to somebody's attention potentially.
Yeah, and just one thing, you will get great training at all of the programs that you're hearing about on this Zoom segment today. It's just a matter of how you fit in that program, how it fits with your personal goals, what you need for your personal life, and all of that has to all align. And there's no one program that's best for you. It's what you think is best for yourself. And so really think of this in a very selfish way. How is it going to make me achieve my goals? And that's what you should be thinking about, and not which program is best for me.
I would just like to echo something because I couldn't agree more. I think a lot of times the question is like, what would make me a good fit for your program? I would like challenge people to think about it in a different way. Like, what is it about this program that's a good fit for you? So that's we all want to see you succeed, and how best you learn, which environments you best thrive. So seek those programs out, ask those hard questions to find a program that's really right for you, that's going to complement you best.
All right, thank you. We have time for one more question, and that is, how will programs utilize geographic area preference and also as PDs?
I just have no idea about this. This preferences stuff, it's up to you. I'm not sure what to do with it. I know that California students or people who have lived in California have a hard time moving east. It's a little bit easier to move to the west, but I'm just not sure how to utilize these preferences in the whole selection process. So I'd like to hear other people's ideas about this.
I think it's important for the students to remember that all we can see is if you preferenced our region. Like it's not a yes, no, it's just a yes. And I have no idea what your other we have no idea where else you may have preferenced. The rural versus urban. I mean, I would almost say, unless you feel very strongly in one way or the other, I find that less important, because you may interview at my program, which is defined as rural, and love us and sort of and go in the opposite direction too. Same thing with the signaling. Like the signaling is, what do you like based on paper? And then you get to go interview at places and say they are, as Sean just said, it is the right program for me or not. So, we're still, and I know Tina said it in the chat, like we're still all kind of figuring it out. And I think again, the bigger thing is if you have the opportunity to sort of highlight in words why you want to be someplace, to take that opportunity, because that helps us have a little bit more of a vision. And I love Sean's statement about the personal statement, like, tell us your story. Don't regurgitate your CV, because that's probably the most powerful thing that sways me as I read. That and letters of recommendation help me the most to understand a person on paper. And I know, talking to other PDs, they have felt similarly, but obviously chime in if it's different.
Along the lines of the personal statement, I would say share your story, but don't feel like you need to customize it to every single program that you're applying to, that is a daunting process, and I think error prone as well. So just be mindful of that. I think we, to answer the question about signaling, I think we are also, thinking about what that means. As a program, we are currently only using that in the initial screening, whether we invite for interviews or not, and then we set it aside and don't look at it again.
Yeah, I can say we're struggling what to do with it. Like 3 geographical regions, and the 3 that were just presented today is the entire eastern seaboard. So it's a little bit kind of hard to separate it out if you're stretching from Maine to Florida, what that means. I think, we're kind of looking at almost like an interview process with your story, and do you have like ties to our region? Maybe ties to New England, maybe that you went back home if you were in California or something else. But that's a small part of our review process. It's really trying to understand and review the application holistically to understand who an individual is and what they've done, and have to our ERIS application to really understand who they are. So the geographical location is not entirely that critically important.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for participation. We ran a little bit out of time, but hopefully everyone got the chance to learn a bit more about what the Northeast programs have to offer. We want to repeat how grateful we are to all the program directors, coordinators, and other representatives who took the time to join us tonight. We will now request our program representative to kindly log off as we transition to our resident panel portion of the
Hi, everyone. As we wait for attendees to trickle in, I'd like to remind program representatives to please add your institution or program affiliation to your Zoom display name. All right, attendees, please take a moment to pull out your phones and snap a picture of your screen if you have not done so already. This will allow you to easily refer back to when bouncing around breakout rooms. This slide will also remain in the breakout room during the entire webinar. I'd also like to offer our attendees some guidance with navigating between breakout rooms. To join a different breakout room, select the breakout room and then join the breakout room of your choice. To return to the main room, select leave room, then leave the breakout room. All right, so I would like to welcome everyone to room 3. My name is Andrea Quintero Reyes. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a recent graduate from American University of Antigua, and I'm currently working at an outpatient pediatric clinic in New York, and I will be your moderator for this evening. I would also like to introduce our FPR Assistant Director of Webinars, working hard behind the scenes, Cassandra Pinelo. I would like to invite our program representatives to give a short presentation of their programs for 5 minutes for the first part of the evening, and then we will take questions after all of the presentations. Attendees, you can, however, leave your questions in the chat as we go. We also encourage programs to make use of the chat to answer any questions they can in case we run out of time. To ensure that all programs are adequately represented, each program is limited to 5 minutes. When you hear my timer go off, which is this, please begin to wrap up your thoughts, as that will signify that you have 30 seconds remaining. So our first program for the evening is University of Connecticut. I would like to invite your representative to unmute and tell us a little bit about your program.
Hi, you just heard me talk, so you're stuck hearing me again, but I'm Stu Mackey, the program director for University of Connecticut. Thanks, Cass and Andrea, for pulling this together and having us today. This is really a wonderful event. So University of Connecticut Pediatric Residency Program is primarily housed out of Connecticut Children's, which is a freestanding children's hospital and ranked on the U.S. News World Report with magnet designation on that. It's got a really great opportunity for residents to get to work in all 18 subspecialties and treat kids with almost all problems, including having ECMO, cardiac and neurosurgery surgeries. And we're in the process now of actually expanding, which is very exciting, with building a new tower, which will add 70 beds and some new beautiful conference spaces as well, which is slated to open in the fall of 2025. I would characterize this as a medium to large size residency program. We have 22 residents per year. And so really it gives us a real opportunity to have the opportunity for residents to work with fellows, but not be a fully fellowship driven program, with most fellowships only that we have having 1 or 2 fellows in the respective areas. We really emphasize an individualized curriculum, and we utilize pathways that allow for residents to become great general pediatricians and be ready for whatever their future career might hold, whether it be general pediatrics or subspecialty. Some unique areas that for our residents is that we give residents 7 discretionary blocks to be able to choose what they want to be doing, whether it be global health initiatives, advocacy, research, or other areas of personal interest, as well as to further expand their interest in the career they're planning on choosing afterwards. We have 3 ambulatory months already built into our curriculum to really try and help all residents, regardless of what they go into, to be really excellent general pediatricians, which is an important part of our curriculum. And residents actually get 3 blocks in their first year for elective or discretionary blocks to be able to use in order to try and help them figure out what they want to do earlier on, which I think is a nice aspect to set you up for success in the future. Our curriculum emphasizes advocacy both at the clinical level as well as within the community. This is especially salient as we're located in Hartford. Hartford is actually the 5th poorest city in the United States, even though Connecticut is the 6th richest state in the country. And so there's a lot of opportunity to do advocacy work to make meaningful work in our community. And residents often can be found actually at the State House, which is also located in Hartford, giving them additional opportunities in advocacy as well, which is really wonderful. In terms of a place to live, Hartford and the surrounding area can be a little more affordable than some of the other areas in New England, which can be appealing to people, but also has a really great place for young people, especially West Hartford, which has consistently been named one of the best places to live. And it's a very welcoming community with 80 primary languages spoken as well. And there are really great food options there. There's great cultural events. There's a lot to offer. And in terms of resident wellness, we do a lot of things for residents to try and help promote that, especially in the midst of the challenges in the post-pandemic era. We have a mental health service that's an opt-out that people are scheduled when they first come in here. We have flex days. You get 3 flex days a year. We have parental leave. And really to describe our program as a family feel supportive and individualized. With that, I'm pretty much done. If there's any, I don't know if we take questions now or wait till the end.
We take the questions at the end.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit, and I'm glad that you could learn a little more about our program.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mackey. It sounds like you guys have some great opportunities for us. The next, we're just going to wait a couple seconds, see if anyone else wants to join the breakout room for this next program. Next up, we have Brown University. If your representative would like to unmute and tell us a little bit about your program, please.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Allison Heinley. I am an associate program director at Brown University. I'm super excited to be here tonight. Unfortunately, Brian Laurie, who is our new program director, couldn't be here. He's on vacation, enjoying a 2-week break. So he's really excited to get started. He just started this year with us in July, and so we're happy to welcome him. Hasbro Children's Hospital is a really nice, unique program that we have. This beautiful children's hospital within a major hospital, and we serve all of Rhode Island, a little bit of southern Massachusetts and northern Connecticut, and we're the only level 1 pediatric trauma center in the area, so we're really going to be seeing everything that comes into our state. We have some really wonderful programs. We're going to see a lot of the basics. You're going to see everything you need to know to be a pediatric resident, but we have some new, unique opportunities. So our Heart Center, our Children's Neurodevelopmental Center, we have a special healthcare needs program. We have a really amazing refugee health clinic, as well as a gender affirming care clinic, to name a few. One other special piece is our continuity clinic model. So we use a micro practice model. We have small groups. So your patient panel is within this small micro practice. You have 2 attendings and you meet with them every week. So this small group gets to see each other. I'm a Tuesday person, so I see my group every Tuesday. It's a really nice way to get to know your patients and the residents and attendings within your small group. We are schedule wise going to be going to X+Y in 2024. So that's exciting to look forward to. And with that comes new program tracks for different specialties, primary care, critical care, research tracks, things like that. We're going to also be instituting a new academic half day in addition to a new personal flex day as well. And we'll continue on with our didactics such as morning report and noon conference. So we're really excited about those new changes coming down the line. We are a medium-sized program, so we have a really great number of residents, 48 total residents. We also have med-peds residents and triple board residents at our institution as well. We offer many resident wellness and support groups. So we also have opt-out therapy for all residents, and that's scheduled right when you walk in the door. We have 1st and 2nd year support groups, which are processing groups that happen off site at my home or one of the other attendings' homes. And so we do those every other month. We also offer monthly resident process groups on site, monthly wellness reports, and a wellness committee. That's in addition to fun things like Beach Week and switch parties and liver rounds and things that we'll get to know each other and get to hang out outside of work. We have a lot of diversity initiatives. So our Brown Minority Half Staff Association is a wonderful group. We also have Med Talks and the Visiting Medical Student Scholarship Program. Other things about us, Providence is amazing. I never expected to stay, actually was a Brown resident back in the day, and I have stayed on since because I really love Rhode Island. I love Providence. Providence is a very beautiful, diverse, exciting, really fun city, but we also have a lot of things to do in Rhode Island. So the beaches is the one thing that I really love. There's hiking, there's, kayaking, there's outdoor activities. There's so much really to do within our small state and a lot around us. So, we have Boston nearby if you want to go into a larger city. And then often many people will be going hiking and camping and things in the mountains and snowboarding and skiing, things like that. So a lot to do. Since I have time, one other really awesome piece about Rhode Island is we're such a teeny, tiny state. So we're the smallest state and we really get to impact, we have change, so our advocacy rotation, you really get to experience what it's like at the, with doing legislation. You get to write testimony, you get to present testimony, we write op-eds together, and you really have an opportunity to make change within our state. So I think that's a really unique, exciting place to be. And at the bottom, we have our Twitter and Instagram and our website. Please check it out. And we are happy to answer any questions at the end. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. Sounds like a lot of great opportunities for us as well here. Wow, these programs sound really good. All right, so next up, we have the University of Vermont Medical Center. If your representative would like to unmute and tell us a little bit about your program. I'm not sure if Dr. Reinhardt is present or if the representative for the University of Vermont. If not, we can go to the next hospital and maybe check back in and see if they've joined us. Okay, so next up, we have Maimonides Children's Hospital of Brooklyn. If your representative would like to unmute and tell us a little bit about your program.
Hi, good evening. My name is Dr. Ingrid Walker-Descartes. I'm the program director for Maimonides Children's Hospital and the vice chair of education there. We are actually located in Brooklyn, New York, but we were kind of scheduled this week. So it's wonderful to hear about all the programs, the neighboring programs. We are the only children's hospital in Brooklyn, and we have tons of clinical exposure. One of the strong points of our program, as well as the diversity of our patients, our faculty, and our residency program. We encourage residents to perform research in basic science, clinical science, and health services throughout the institution. And we also offer excellent support for mentorship. We are a community hospital. We serve several underserved populations and several immigrant populations. We're located in Borough Park, Brooklyn. I've been at the institution for about 16 years and have seen such changes to cater to the needs of our patients. We have a Global Health Institute with collaboratives with local and global partnerships to ensure that our residents can get a global experience, which, given the diversity of our patients, I feel that they get at home, but it's also wonderful to go elsewhere and experience that. We also have an opt-in for mental health, where our residents as PGY1s are scheduled to have a meeting with a psychologist, and then they can decide to continue or opt out. This is really a way to demystify and destigmatize the need for mental health services. We are level 1 trauma center in Brooklyn, the only one. So we tend to get everything that can't be handled in other hospitals to our hospital. We have, in terms of our clinical services and visits, very robust. We have a very busy nursery, outpatient, inpatient, PICU, NICU. We only transfer out for ECMO, as well as transplants. However, after ECMO, we do have the patients back for further care. In terms of the curriculum, we are the only program, I believe, in the country doing the 8+2 scheduling model for the X+Y, which we piloted last year and has been going really well. We also incorporated this year an academic half day, so we don't interrupt the flow of the day with noon conferences. We have a lot of simulation going on with OSCEs to speak about and address, non-clinical topics that impact the clinical learning environment, such as sexual harassment, such as biases from patient to physician, as well as communicating with patients of different cultures. We also have OSCEs talking about the use of social media and how to actually use that. So we do pay attention to a lot of the non-clinical kind of subtleties of the training and how that impacts us. In terms of diversity initiatives, we are very inclusive, and I wish I can show my residency poster. Our residents have representation not just from all over the country, but all over the world. We accept J1, H1B, and F1 visas, and we are just, again, in terms of diversity, we have it in terms of initiatives, but you can also see the tangible representation of that in our residency program, in our leadership, and otherwise. In terms of fun program traditions, everyone has to wear a Halloween costume. I remind my residents that the only people who want to be at a hospital are the people that work there. Everyone else is being held against their wills. So we have to make sure that the day feels fun for them. We just recently added a noon time where we called it community building, where if anyone goes on vacation, they have to show slides and talk about why they chose those specific area to go, as well as just other fun activities where we get to know each other. So I will stop there.
Thank you so much, Dr. Walker-Descartes. I really like the Halloween costume idea that you have, so I'm glad everyone gets involved with that. And I just want to double check and make sure that Dr. Reinhardt isn't present yet. I'm not sure if the University of Vermont stepped in. If not, we can conclude this portion of the evening and open up the floor for the live Q&A. If anyone prefers to remain anonymous, please feel free to send me a personal message and I will address your question to the program representatives. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask these wonderful program directors.
Hello, this is Chala. I'm from Southern Illinois University, and please excuse my voice. I've been in my sabbai in PICU, and I'm blessed with parainfluenza. So first of all, thank you so much for your information about your programs. Everyone had really fun stuff, so that's really awesome to hear. My question is, what are your thoughts on geographic signaling, particularly as it pertains to out-of-state students? I will be applying from Illinois, and it's relatively small school and it's not really known in your area, I'm assuming. So what do you think about that? Thank you.
I can talk a little bit about it. I was on the residency program steering committee for APPD. So we've talked a lot about the importance or the lack of importance or what to do with signaling, quite honestly, in general. But from a geographic standpoint, I think most programs did find that it can be helpful when people from an area that we don't usually recruit from signal us, because it gives us an idea that you are interested in our area. And if there's a lot of applicants, that can help us to just be able to filter through a little bit. And some of the data that I've heard is that most programs found that there was a very high rate of people signaling their region that ended up matching there. Again, that's a little different, right, than program signaling where you only have 5 choices. When you pick, the Northeast region, you're getting a whole lot more bang for your buck in that signaling. So I don't know how accurate it truly is, but I do think for people who are not from the geographic area or that may not be as well known to a program, the geographic signaling is something worth doing. I think that the ultimate value of signaling is still yet to be determined, but I would encourage you to signal an area, especially it's not obvious why you'd be interested in that area. If you've always been from, the Illinois area, and now this year you're applying to a Northeast program, that may help a little bit.
I also want to add to that in that, again, I agree with Stu in that the jury is still out on what it means. I actually look at what people's hobbies are. Because if you like, skiing in the mountains and swimming and all those things, we're in Brooklyn. I just keep it real. So you definitely want to make sure that the person has outlets to do all the fun things they want to do, because it's going to be a part of their wellness kind of situation. So I pay more attention to the hobbies than I do the geographic signaling, honestly, because it tells me more if that person is going to be able to find those resources they need where our programs, relocate when they're ready to kind of refresh and recharge. I also see that Dr. Reinhardt just logged on, so I don't know if that stops anything or whatever the case may be.
Hi, everybody. I apologize. I thought we were starting at 9. I've been sitting here, so I'm here.
Hi, Dr. Reinhardt. How are you? I'm Andrea, and we have Cassandra here as well. We're moderating the breakout room. If you would like to give, I'm sorry, Dr. Walker-Descartes, did you finish? Did you want to finish your?
I answered the question already, so I'm completely done. I just wanted to stop and acknowledge that Dr. Reinhardt is here just in case.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure you completed your thought there. You were giving some really good advice. Dr. Reinhardt, would you like to present your program? I can have Cassandra here put up your slide.
That's great. Hi, everybody. I'm Jill Reinhardt. I'm the program director at the University of Vermont Children's Hospital. We're located in beautiful Burlington, Vermont, where we have 4 seasons. Some would say 5 with stick season that comes about November. And we really pride ourselves in having a small program where you get to know one another really well and your faculty, and have opportunities for mentorship, and especially along lines of advocacy and quality improvement and scholarly activity. We have a integrated mental health curriculum that is in its 3rd year now, where it's anchored with a block of mental health experience, but then integrated throughout your 3 years of training here. So anywhere that you see children within the Children's Hospital, you'll also be thinking about their mental and emotional health. And we know how important that is to the future of pediatrics. As a small program, we have a lot of focus on wellness and individual support. One of the fun things that we have an opportunity to do each block is we are sorted into teams, Harry Potter style, where we have a friendly competition for wellness activities where people take a selfie of one another doing different things and compete. I think the other thing that we're really pleased with is that we have a very resident focused and run program, and in the response to resident needs, we have eliminated 24-hour shifts and have been able to combine our nights blocks for our 2nd and 3rd years into 2 separate sections. So it's really been helpful for circadian rhythms and overall wellness to have worked on that piece of regularity for everybody. People often think of Vermont as a pretty homogeneous state, and we beg to differ. We have an incredible population here in Burlington that's diverse, with kind of rooted with our New American Clinic that our residents have an opportunity to be a part of. And then in conclusion, really wanting to talk about Burlington itself, which is a beautiful area. Again, outdoor activities, restaurants, lots of enjoyment here while you're going through training. We always say it's kind of like summer camp up here a little bit, maybe more like boot camp, but where you really get to know one another through these incredible opportunities for caring for children and families, and a beautiful place. And I will end there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Reinhardt. Big Harry Potter fan over here, so I really enjoyed that.
Great.
Okay, so we can head back to the Q&A. If anybody has any questions, again, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask the lovely program directors. So I have a question here. How can an applicant stand out? And how could I make my personal statement more impactful? They expanded just by saying the top qualities of desired applicants for a strong pediatric residency applications, especially if you have a mediocre application.
I would actually, I'd like to take a stab at that. In terms of the person thinking their application is mediocre, I would say let us be the judge of that. And that your personal statement is really important to give us a sense of some of the things that you hold valuable in kind of your path and your journey and what made you arrive at this place. And I was having a conversation with one of my residents, and he said to me, you know, I shared in my personal statement that I had to stop my training at several points because I was the oldest of the children, and there was some family issues that caused, you know, me to pause and so on and so forth. And he said, your program was the only program that saw it as a strength. And I want to say that, you know, for applicants, be your authentic self in your personal statement, because that's what you're going to have to be during residency. And if you know, you're not suited for a place, it's okay. Sometimes you're not for everybody, and that's okay. But you want to land where you're going to be comfortable and be your authentic self. So be that in your personal statement. One of the things I will share, and I say it to applicants as well, I'm a child abuse pediatrician. And so some people make their personal statements really personal, where it actually traumatizes the reader. That is not the whole point of a personal statement. And when I've seen these types of personal statements, I actually invite the person for an interview to talk to them about this trauma, because it's going to be received in different ways. So be your authentic self, because, you know, you can only be you. And where you land may not be where you want to go, but it's where you belong.
Thank you. I absolutely love that, especially the last statement you said there. Okay, the next question is, I guess it could piggyback off of this. What are considered red flags, and should an applicant address these in the application or in their personal statement?
I'd love to answer one of these. I think it's helpful if we know, just like you were just saying, that if you did take a break from school, or if you had a certain failure, if there was something going on during that time period, a reason, an explanation, we love to hear about it. We, you know, understand if you had an illness, a family emergency, a crisis, you know, that's something that we would be, you know, happy to hear about. And it does kind of allow us to have some understanding about why you needed that extra help or that extra time. So I really encourage people to include that in their personal statement or in their application in some place.
I'll piggyback on that too and say, I think one of the things that most program directors will say is the most important thing for residents is to have a growth mindset, and how you've dealt with adversity or challenges is probably the most important thing that we can see. And so by saying something about it in the personal statement and how you grew from it and how you learn from it can really be helpful to us, because you will hit challenges in residency. Residency is hard, and we want to know that you have the fortitude and the ability to kind of overcome those. So I would say if there is something that is a red flag. I think it's hard to define what that is, to be honest. I think failures on step scores would be one that's probably a little more obvious, or repeating years in medical school. But explaining it and how you grew from it and how you moved on from it is really something that can hit a lot of us. And it doesn't mean you're not going to get an interview if you have it, but we will see it. And so being able to explain it and have us understand that and how you've grown from that is really important.
Yeah, I'd like to add to it, in terms of, I think students come to this space and there's this expectation to present the perfect. And, I always say people are in hospitals not because they're perfect, it's because something is actually not good. And you have to be able to connect to that. You can't sit at a bedside, connect with the patient, telling them how perfect your life is. So if you've gone through some stuff, it's going to give you some of the tools to get into that space and connect with the patients. And, step scores, everybody falls down. It's how you get up, and we'll see if you rebound. And that's what we want to see, the rebound, because we're all gonna hit, bottom at some point. Is how you rebound. And that's what speaks to the fortitude that, if you don't mind me calling you Stu was talking about. You don't have to be perfect. We're not, and God, if you think we are, Jesus, we're great actors and actresses. But just we see it. And the question is, does our program have the resources to support you so that you can be successful in the face of those challenges? And that's kind of what I think about as I think about an applicant where there are quote unquote red flags. Because I'm telling you, as PD sitting here, we have tons of red flags ourselves, just no one has seen them, at least not yet. But that being said, give the program an opportunity to support.
Along the same lines, do you think that challenges should be addressed in the personal statement or the optional essay portion that we have this year? What do you think about that?
I mean, I'll jump in here. I think it really doesn't matter as long as you have a spot that you are talking from that is, as Dr. Walker Descartes says, like, is authentic, right? So what I think is a challenge with the new format this past year is a lot of people felt forced to come up with a negative experience. And I think, to Ingrid, to your point, that is like, we don't need to hear all the trauma. That's not the point. The point is, we all been through things, and how you became who you are is really wonderful. And how you gained the strength to do the things is also something that kind of builds your application, despite any gaps in training, sort of. Thank you.
Bushra, you're just gonna have to jump in, girl. I'm sorry.
Thank you. First of all, thank you everybody for giving us the time and talking to us. My question is, what would you say to someone who who graduated in 2020? And another question I have is, how IMG friendly are your programs? Thank you.
So I have IMGs in my program. My question is, have they had any exposure to the US experience, such as observerships? Because getting used to kind of the American way of practicing medicine, EMRs, the subtleties of the dynamics between patients and physicians and so on, are really important. So I have a program of about 18 per class. And I would say about 1/3 of my residents, about 3 or 4 are IMGs. And again, what I look for is just some exposure to the American medical system in the form of observerships. And we look at folks up to 5 years out of graduation, because we know that these systems aren't necessarily aligned with the American way of doing things. So we do kind of, with that 5-year, take those gaps into concerns with a different system of training.
Thank you.
I would agree with what you just said wholeheartedly. I think the one thing that we also look for is, if you do have some years between when you graduated and you're applying, that you're still doing some clinical medicine observerships or something, just to kind of keep yourself, current and thinking about things. That would probably be the other thing that we also will look at people that have a little bit more time from when they graduated to when they're starting or applying for residency.
Thank you.
Have one question here from a direct message. I know some of you guys already talked about the global health track, but this person wanted you guys to expand if you can. And if any current or previous residents have gone to a foreign country for an away elective.
Yeah, here in Vermont, we have actually launched a brand new global health curriculum, sort of because we took a pause on our international travel during the COVID pandemic, of course. But this year, we're so excited to have we have a small program. We have 7 residents per year, but we have a third-year resident who's going to take advantage of elective in Uganda this spring. Which is wonderful. We also have local global health too, right? So we take care of our populations with disparities here within Burlington as well. And it's woven throughout our programming here, but having an actual opportunity to go internationally is finally back. It's great.
Yeah, we have a global health pathway at UConn that residents can choose to do. Even if you're not doing the pathway, though, residents still are able to do global health rotations. And we've had some partnerships or utilized other programs if there are specific places that residents have wanted to go. If you have prior experience, I know many of you probably have, and there's a place that you've been, we really believe in the idea of kind of longitudinal experiences in that. And so we've had residents continue places they've gone prior to coming here as well. I'm also the Northeast Pediatric Program Director co-chair, and one of the things that we'll be talking about actually later next month, mid next month, is starting a global health consortium in the Northeast, actually, to help kind of pool our resources as a region for global health experiences. So that way, small, medium, or large size programs all will have that opportunity to offer residents different experiences in different places based on people's interests.
Here at Brown, we also have a global health pathway where you have a nice curriculum over the course of your 3 years. And then you can create individual, experiences in different places. Prior to COVID, which we are now, restarting, we have a great kind of relationship with a hospital in Haiti. And so their residents come to us and we can go there as well. So that's been a really nice experience for residents in the past, which is just restarting now.
Okay. If anyone has any other questions, we're approaching the end of our program overview portion of the evening. I don't know if anybody has any more questions and you'd like to put it in the chat or just unmute yourself. If not, we can head over to the resident portion. Okay. So hopefully everyone got a chance to learn a little bit more about our Mid-South Atlantic and New England programs. I sure did. This was probably one of the best motivational and holistic webinars that I've been to, and I've been to a few so far. So that was great. We want to repeat how grateful we are to all the program directors, coordinators, and other representatives who took the time to join us tonight. We will now request our program representatives to kindly log off as we transition to our resident panel portion of the evening. Students and other participants, we ask that you stay on if you have any questions for the wonderful residents here tonight. And residents, thank you all for being here tonight. Please unmute and briefly introduce yourself, what medical school you attended, and where you are training right now. Thank you guys for coming.
I think we can start. Can we go to the next slide? Hi everyone, welcome to Breakout Room number 4. I am Sheena Bedi. I am an MS5/intern at DY Patil Medical College Hospital and Research Center, India. I am an assistant director of webinars for FPR this year, and I have the honor to be a moderator this evening. I would also like to introduce you to Nicole.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Cox. I am a third-year medical student at VCOM in Blacksburg, Virginia. I am serving as a assistant director of webinars for FPR this year, and I'm so excited to be helping out tonight.
I would like to invite our program representatives to give a short presentation of their programs for 5 minutes for the first part of this evening, and then we'll be taking questions after all of the presentations. Attendees, you can however leave your questions in the chat as we go. We also encourage programs to make use of the chat to answer any questions they can in case we run out of time. To ensure that all programs are adequately represented, each presentation is limited to 5 minutes, and when you hear my timer go off, please begin to wrap up your thoughts, as that will signify you have 30 seconds remaining. The timer kind of sounds like this. Thank you so much. And now let's begin for the most exciting part of this evening. And our first program of the evening is Eastern Virginia Medical School. I would request your representative to unmute and tell us all about your program.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrea Tatum. I am one of the Associate Program Directors at Eastern Virginia Medical and Children's Hospital of the King's Daughters. I do have to tell you that this is a program that is near and dear to my heart, because not only am I an APD here, but I also trained here as a resident and was one of the chief residents. Some of the things I want to let you know about our program is that we are Virginia's only freestanding full-service children's hospital. The things that you won't necessarily read here that are really important about our program are that we are truly a family environment. That Southern charm is visible all throughout our program, throughout our city, and everything else that you'll come in contact with within our program. Some highlights. I think it's really important for you all to know that we don't have a lot of fellows in our program. And what that means is that you as the resident have firsthand experience. You're the first line to be able to do procedures and a lot of things that you may not be able to see or be able to do for a fellow. So you're not competing with anyone else. As you saw from our region, you have the option to drive 20 minutes away from the hospital to go to the beach. You can drive a couple of hours away to go to the mountains. We have so much for you to do. And as we've heard about our region, lots of great food for you to have from different regions. Some other things that I really think are important: we have a global health track. We have a primary care track. We are now working on advocacy curriculums as well as scholarship curriculums within our program so that we can expose our residents to not only local advocacy, but as well as federal and legislative advocacy. We do accept visas in our program, and we are a large residency program. We have 28 residents per year, which I think is really important. It helps with that work-life integration, so you know that you have enough that are there so you can have the time off that you need. And you can also, be able to say, hey, I got sick, and you don't have to worry about how that affects your program or your timing. We have a very robust resident-run DEI program, and I think it's important to highlight that we serve a very diverse community. We are an area that serves the largest military base in the country, and I think that's important because it gives you all exposure to patients that you may not see in other places. And so I hope that you are excited about our program. We're very excited about it. I am also here with my program director, Dr. Sines Devlin, and we're here to answer whatever questions that you have. We're very supportive, we're open, and we hope that you are interested in our program. And as a lot of programs have said, one of the things I think is really important for you to know, you are going to end up a program that's best for you. We hope that it's with us, but I want you all to just be reassured that it's kind of stressful in this time, but you will make it through. And I look forward to seeing you all on the interview trail. Thank you.
Thank you so much for showing us all that Eastern Virginia Medical School holds for all of us future pediatric residents. And I'd like to give a couple of seconds for attendees to join our breakout room. Thank you. And the next program of the evening is University of Virginia. And I'd like to invite your representative to please unmute themselves and walk us through your program.
Hi, I'm Allie DeLeon. I'm one of the Associate Program Directors at UVA, and I'm here with Lisa Hainstock, our Program Director, and then we have two of our rising chief residents, Mayfer and Lauren Ferguson, who are here in the breakout session as well. So UVA is a medium-sized program in Charlottesville. I also hold this program near and dear to my heart. I was a resident here and a chief resident, and I've joined the team now in the program leadership. So I'm excited to be here. We have a really special program, really focus on our medical education, training our residents to become excellent general pediatricians first and foremost, and a family feel that I think really makes our program stand out. Our curriculum is divided into 2 and 4 week blocks, and we have some highlights that I'd like to talk about in our curriculum. One is every day, or 3 to 4 days a week, we meet for morning report in the morning, where we run through resident admissions overnight, and residents present patients, and we all learn from each other. So we learn from our subspecialists, learn from the admitting team, and get to hear a lot of variety of different opinions about a patient's condition that really benefits all of our learning. We also have Wednesday school once a month, where we have a couple of hours dedicated to resident education, and that's a great time to focus on things like procedures or maybe developmental milestones, for example, and all sorts of different topics are covered during those sessions. We also have a couple unique tracks. We do have a global health track, a clinical educator track for those who are interested in medical education, and then a primary care track as well, which is new in the last couple of years. Another unique feature, we do have a home visit program where once a month our residents go out into the community and see our patients in their homes, which allows us to see a different side of where our patients might be coming from and allows us to take better care of them. We have a very diverse patient population as well here in Charlottesville, and we are a refugee resettlement site for the International Rescue Committee. So we're really taking care of patients from all over the world. We, have a couple of our fun traditions that are listed at the bottom there. We have a yearly retreat at Wintergreen Resort for the 1st and the 3rd year residents. Dr. Hainstock hosts a yearly gathering at the end of each year. And then around the holidays, we do a Secret Santa gift exchange among all the residents. I think I'll leave it at that, but we'll chat more later in the session.
Thank you so much. Although you didn't have 2 minutes more, but I'm so glad that you walked us through what University of Virginia holds for all of us. And thank you so much. We'd like to give a couple of more seconds for more attendees to switch between rooms. Okay, thank you so much. And the next program of the evening is Charleston Area Medical Center. I'd like to request your representative to please unmute themselves and talk about your program. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm John Frohn, Residency Program Director for our program here in Charleston, West Virginia. We're part of this region in some ways with ARIS, but we're next door to these amazing programs in Virginia. So we're really happy to be here with you guys tonight. And as other people have said, the goal really is to share a variety of programs with each of you so you can make a better choice as you select your residency options. Our program is one of the largest health centers in West Virginia. We've really grown a lot over the last several years. While we're the only children's hospital, freestanding children's hospital within our health system, we are part of a 12 hospital health system. And so we get referrals from a lot of other smaller areas. For those of you who know West Virginia, it's a relatively small state, more impoverished than many. So it's got some unique health challenges that our residents really rise to the challenge and take care of. Our residency continuity clinic is based in a federally qualified health center. And in addition to your continuity clinic where you are for the 3 years, we also have 4 other months in that ambulatory setting to try to get you more exposure to your own patients as well as to the patients that are served by this clinic. In terms of our curriculum, we really do try to focus on providing a broad range. And while we're sort of a community-based academic medical center, we do have affiliations with West Virginia University for their medical students, as well as the West Virginia School of Osteopathic Medicine. So there's lots of opportunities to teach medical students and residents in our program. We have all the different specialties that you would want represented in our program. We actually have the only pediatric rheumatologist in the state is in our medical center. We also have a child advocacy center, which is a place where kids come who have been victims of abuse or neglect. And so there's some really unique things about our program here. We're based in Charleston, which is the capital. The picture that's behind me is actually of the newest national park, which is in West Virginia. It's the New River Gorge National Park. So if you like outdoor stuff, there's a ton of stuff to do here. When I first moved down here from another state in the north, I went whitewater rafting, and that was a lot of fun. There's a lot of outdoor hiking, biking, kayaking, all different types of things, fishing, any kind of outdoor things you can imagine. As with some of the other programs, we do have sort of all 4 seasons represented. In Charleston, we don't get a lot of snow, but we get some. But because we are a mountain state, the mountain state actually, there are opportunities to do downhill skiing in a variety of areas that aren't too far from here. The other thing that I think is really nice in terms of a place to live is there's a lot of unique things about Charleston. It's an older city, a lot of the coal country and that history of our country is based here in West Virginia, but it's also kind of going through some revivals, and there's a bunch of new microbreweries opening up downtown, different restaurants. There's a series of concerts every Friday night during the summer on the river. It's called Live at the Levee. So some pretty big names coming through here too. So even though it's a smaller area of the country, we get a lot of different cultural things. The other thing that I've been impressed by is how close this is to everything else in this area. So we're about 3 hours from Pittsburgh, 3 from Columbus, Ohio, 3.5 from Cincinnati, 5 from Charlotte, and about 5 or 6 to DC. So if you're looking for a smaller town living with a lot of amenities and not being too far from bigger places, it's a really great place to do your residency. So I think I would just encourage you to kind of check us out. We have updates on our website, and like I said, you really can't go wrong with pretty much any program in the country, but especially in this region and in this little breakout group, we've got some really great programs represented. So thanks for joining us tonight, and looking forward to answering any other questions people might have.
Thank you so much, Dr. Frona. This was very, very insightful. And now I'd like to invite the next program of the evening, Virginia Commonwealth University Health System, Children's Hospital of Richmond at VCU. I'd like to request your program representative to please unmute themselves and talk to us about your program. I think they might have not joined the breakout room. I'm really, really sorry for the inconvenience. I think I'll check back with them. And if we can move on to the next program for now, Innova's Children's Hospital. Thank you so much. I would like to request your representative to please unmute themselves and talk to us about your program.
Thank you very much. My name is Meredith Carter. I'm one of the Associate Program Directors at Inova Children's Hospital. I'm joined by my fellow APD, Dr. Heather Bernard here. Our wonderful Program Director, Dr. Donnelly, sends her regrets. She had planned to be here, but she is on service in the cardiac ICU. And as we all know, things happen sometimes, and she had a kiddo come out late from the OR. So we are here to speak in her place. Inova Children's Hospital, the pediatric residency program is a medium-sized program. We have 13 residents per year. We are a hospital within a hospital. So we're a children's hospital within the larger Inova healthcare system, which is a large healthcare system that serves the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. Primarily, we get our patients from right around the DC metropolitan area, but we have patients coming from as far west as West Virginia and Western Virginia, and down to the Fredericksburg area and out to Southern Maryland as well. Like much of the region, we are incredibly fortunate to have an incredibly diverse group of patients. And when I say diverse, I mean in pathology, in life experiences and histories, and where they themselves and where their families hail from, different parts of the globe. We often joke about the fact that people get off the plane at Dulles and we're the closest children's hospital, and so we get an incredible diversity of pathology just by virtue of our location so close to a big international airport. We have an incredible group of residents. The healthcare system itself, as well as the residency program, has a number of well-being initiatives to help support the residents as well as the staff around the healthcare system, including a relatively new mental health support system that includes up to 25 either mental health coaching or therapy sessions per year for free, in addition to obviously our healthcare benefits and such. And it's been a wonderful resource for our residents, and again, for all of the folks in the hospital system. And if everybody is supported, that is ultimately the best thing for the residents as well. In addition, we have paid parental leave for our residents. We have a meal stipend. The residents have access to the physician lounge, which provides free breakfast and lunch Monday through Friday. There is opportunities for discounted gym memberships and free parking, which is always a benefit. We are happy that we were able to open our Pride Clinic a little over a year ago now. It's been a wonderful resource, both for the community as well as an opportunity for the residency program and the healthcare system to make a statement in this day and age where a lot of people are challenging this form of healthcare. Our residents, about half of them do their continuity clinics at our Inova Cares Clinic for Children, which is our community safety net clinic. There's one primary clinic in Falls Church and then a few other smaller clinics around the area as well. But residents also have the opportunity to do continuity clinic in private practices if they choose to do that as well. Another one of our program highlights is our Realizing Inclusion and Systemic Equity curriculum, which was started about 3 years ago within the department, spread to the healthcare system, and is actually spread nationally through APPD, Concept, and now MedEd portal. We are actually a pretty large size hospital for the size of residency program we have. We have 216 beds total. About half of those are in our neonatal intensive care unit. Our curriculum, we use kind of a hybrid X+Y scheduling system right now. I think many of you guys are familiar with X+Y scheduling. I imagine a lot of programs will actually more programs will move to X+Y scheduling in a couple of years when the program requirements allow for a little bit more flexibility within the schedule, but we've created this year kind of a hybrid in anticipation of moving to that within the next couple of years. We do have an academic half day every Tuesday afternoon, so we have completely protected time for our residents. They do not have clinical responsibilities at all. During that time, we have attendings and APPs who cover all the units so that everybody can get to academic half day. In addition, we have our individualized curriculum, which is required of all programs, is very individualized for everybody. We basically teach residents how to create their own curriculum based on what their career goals are and give them a great deal of flexibility in designing it. And with that, I will pause, and folks can ask questions afterwards. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. And this has been very, very insightful. And with this concludes the program overview portion of the evening. And now we will be opening up the floor to a live Q&A. By any chance, if anybody prefers to remain anonymous, please feel free to send me a personal message and I will address your question to the program representatives. And the floor is open now.
Hi, can everyone hear me? I have a question for Dr. Carter. I was wondering if you could tell us more about like Pride Clinic and how that is helping like the LGBTQ plus population pediatrics.
I apologize, you were a little muffled. Can you just repeat that for me?
Yeah, I'll try again. Could you just talk more about the Pride Clinic and how it specifically is helping the LGBTQ plus population in pediatrics?
Perfect. So great question. Thank you. Our Pride Clinic is run by a med-peds trained physician who so the beauty is he can serve both our adolescent and moving into adult population. They provide kind of the breadth of care for LGBTQ plus youth and adults, but in addition, I think probably their most important role is being a source of education for all of us, because I think it's wonderful that we have this clinic, but at the same time, I think it's important that ultimately this is a part of healthcare that is not carved out, but just integrated into all of our healthcare, right? But I will tell you, I joke, I'm a PGY 25 now. This was not a part of medicine that was discussed at all when I was in medical school. And so I think we are all learning, and as we continue to learn from our colleagues, yes, we need folks with that expertise in areas of healthcare that are unique to this population, but more importantly, we need to continue learning from them so that it's just part of healthcare and it's not something unique.
Thank you.
Maybe before we do the next question, I just want to add, I think that, throughout the country, there's a lot of challenges to providing gender affirming care and things like that. And I think a lot of places are very involved, especially in pediatrics, to try to offset some of the adverse impacts of the different laws that are happening in the state. And so even here in West Virginia, where we're a fairly red state, our AAP chapter worked really hard with some of the legislators in the House of Delegates, including some physicians, to try to minimize the impact on physicians. So in some states, they're holding physicians, legally responsible, or they could be arrested if they provide some of this care. That's not the case in West Virginia. We still have some challenges to deal with, but even here, I think just providing a broad range of care for a broad range of patients, I think is really important. So as you look at places, I think those are important questions to ask, and just kind of think about how you want to work as a pediatrician when you're in practice. So I really like the question. I think there's a lot that we can do together in this area.
That's amazing. Natalia, if you could unmute yourself and ask your question yourself, that's all right.
Hi, my name's Natalia and I go to Medical College of Georgia, and just had a question for program directors in general. I'm in a unique situation where me and my partner are trying to end up at residency programs near each other, but he's applying to a dental residency, so we can't do like a couples match or anything like that. And we find out where he matches while I'm interviewing places. And so I just wanted to know if you have any advice or what it's looked like in the past when people are trying to match somewhere based on someone not within our match program system.
Right. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't mean to.
Go ahead. It's fine.
I can speak to that a little bit just because we actually have a number of residents because we're close to both Fort Belvoir's military residency program and Walter Reed's. We've had a number of residents whose partners or spouses have matched to one of those programs, and that was where they were interested in, but they didn't know, that they're two separate systems. I think the most important thing is being flexible and recognizing that it's there are some question marks in there, but then also being open to where you're looking. And so it sounds like they'll find out where they match before you have to enter your rank order list. Is that right?
Yes. And okay. And it's in the middle of interview season too.
So you leave your options open, and at the end of the day, you should never rank a place that you would not be willing to go, right? So you can keep yourself broad to begin with, but then narrow things in terms of where you rank them based on where your partner ends up matching to give yourself the best opportunity to end up in the same spot. Dr. Frone, I apologize.
No, that's totally fine. I was going to basically say the same thing. I think it's actually good that it's this way. When I was matching, my wife was looking at graduate school, and they didn't decide until after the match, and so she really had no input into where she was going to go. Basically, find out where I was going to go, and then she had to go. So this is at least a little bit better. And we definitely deal with these situations, whether it's people in like I think is it the urology match or ophthalmology, one of those that used to have an early match, people in military matches. So we know that there's different ways that people come at these programs. So I think definitely for you to let programs know, like after you find out where you're going, this is really now a high priority for you and all that kind of stuff. And, go through the interview process like normal, but then when you get to that point, definitely let the programs know that this is the area where you guys are going to be.
Thank you.
I have a question. I'm sorry. Good evening, lovely people. So my question was, do you have in your application selection process, do you have any particular red flags that you would want to just filter them out, or something like a YOG or something like experience, anything that you would consider like a major red flag? Or does your program approach the application in a more holistic way? Thank you.
And YOG is year of graduation, right?
Yes, year of graduation.
Okay. Yeah, I think for us, the biggest red flags would be, if there's indications of professionalism issues or something like that. Sometimes there are students that have struggled, and if people are in that boat, I hope that they get, help from their medical school in terms of how to address those, because it definitely makes it harder. But otherwise, I think that I've always been, pretty open to looking at a wide range of applicants. Some of the other programs in our institution don't look at people more than 5 years out of medical school. We will look at people and try to see what other experiences they've had. It's harder if the experience has not been in medicine. So if people were doing something completely unrelated to medicine or not in medicine at all, that makes it harder. Generally, I think less than 5 years makes it easier. Beyond that, I mean, it depends really what you've learned from them. So if you had a failure in a course in medical school, or you even had to repeat a year, or you didn't pass one of your USMLE exams or complex exams, those are all things that could be concerning, but there's ways to overcome that. And I think getting good advice either from people at your med school, or if you're no longer in med school, or if you're an international graduate, and I'm not speaking to you specifically, but just in general, there are those of us out there who would be happy to help advise you on what places you should be looking at and things like that, so to make sure that you have the best chance to match. But I think that's sort of my opinion after many years of doing this, but I'd be interested in what other PDs have to say, or other APDs.
Yeah, in our program, we really do try and do a holistic review. So we don't use step cutoffs. We don't filter out applicants. So if there are any red flags, we look at the entire application and then base decisions on interview really based on the entire application. I think we recognize that it's many people can have a bump in the road or have something that's occurred. And so we don't really hold that against any applicant. So we like to look at, and we typically have 2 members of our program leadership review the applications in their entirety. So that really helps us feel like we get the best sense of everyone that's applying to our program.
I'll share too, just from UVA, we're it's in a similar boat. I think we try to take a really holistic approach. I think the same things that Dr. Frona mentioned for us would maybe just lead us to do a little bit more research into the application, but nothing that would be an immediate, we're not going to consider this person because things can happen, and we want to make sure that we're looking at the whole person.
Agreed. Everybody brings something unique to their practice of medicine, and I think we try to address that with our review of the application. I think one of the when I'm reviewing an application where there's been a bump in the road, I think one of the most important things to me is that that applicant acknowledges it and doesn't try to just ignore it and tries to make sure they address it. How am I a better doctor because of this? Not let's pretend it didn't happen, because we've all had some bump in the road, right? And so it's just important that we figure out how do we grow from this and that we address it directly.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody, for your valuable insight on this particularly, this sort of question I have noticed comes up a lot, and it has shown up a lot in the past webinars also. So piggybacking on it, how do you think is a good way to acknowledge sort of our red flag or this bump? Do you think people should mention it in their PS, or how do you think people should go about it?
Yeah, I think the personal statement's probably the best place because it gives you a chance to acknowledge it and to talk about how you've grown from it. So I think if people had, say, a failure of a step exam, that they have a chance to kind of talk about, were there mitigating circumstances? What have you done differently in terms of your study plan, things like that. You don't want to go on and on too much, but you definitely, as people said, you don't want to ignore it. So I think that's probably the best place. Sometimes it can also be addressed in one of your letters of recommendation, and who could also acknowledge it for you. I think I don't have strong feelings about where it goes, but to me, the personal statement is personal. And so it's something that affected you as an applicant. And I think that's the best place I would put it.
Awesome. Thank you. I have received another question about what do all these programs think about program signaling and geographical preferences? If you could shed some light on it.
I think it is an early enough process that I think most of us will tell you that we're still trying to figure out how best to use those. I think there's the potential for there to be benefit from them, both for the programs and for the applicants. But because there's such conflicting data and advice about it right now, I don't know that any of us completely hang our hats completely on that signaling.
Yeah, this is only the second year that PEDS has used. I think I offered interviews to almost everybody that signaled, but I still looked, I looked more specifically at their application, but it wasn't an automatic invite. I think that's, at least from the national data, that's what we have seen. If you didn't attend one of the, I can't remember if it was the first webinar where we talked about signaling, there was somebody from Concept that talked about how it's used and how some of the data has been shown. We're expecting that people will signal their home program if you need to, or a program that you've done a visiting rotation at. So use your signals wisely, but I do think that those matter. The geographic preferencing is hard because, as you can see tonight, we've got people all up and down the coast. You know, in terms of like this, our region goes all the way from, I think, Virginia all the way down to Florida. So I know last year there were people that, you know, had a regional preference, but then they're like, I really want to be in Florida. I'm like, I'm not Florida. So that makes it harder. But just, I think, you know, you get some space to kind of explain why you're interested in the region. I don't think it matters whether you signal a region or no region. I have not found as much help with that, because I also look at where people are from and where do they go to undergrad and what's their hometown. And like for us, we tend to get a lot of people, you know, from Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, that have, you know, been in more of a rural area and want to continue practicing this way. So we kind of know what applicants we're going to be more likely to attract. So if you're not from one of those areas and you want to be in that area, either signaling or something like that would be helpful. But otherwise, if you're from those areas, we're going to look at your application almost automatically. So I don't know, that's a little bit rambly, but signal is more helpful to me than the geographic preferencing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Another question that I have received is, how is the IMG ratio of your program like, and what can an international medical graduate do more so that they have higher chances of matching into your program?
So it's interesting. Our number of international graduates has gone down in the last couple of years, and it's not clear to me why, because the number who are ranked in our list are basically the same as where they've been in years past. So I don't know if it's a matter of everybody else has gotten wise to the great benefits that our international graduates bring to the program, and I'm having to compete with more programs, or why that is. But I think one of the most important things is experience within the U.S. medical system, however that is, because we recognize that will probably help that learning curve more than anything, particularly in the first 6 months. So being familiar with having some familiarity with the U.S. medical system, and again, that can be in many, many different formats. I think that's probably the thing that I look for, my colleagues and I look for the most when we're reviewing applicants.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I had a question to ask. So I was wondering, are there any specific aspects of the application that are very valuable that program directors consider, such as community involvement or like research experience? Because I'm an international medical graduate as well. And now that the application format has changed so much for us to be only allowed 10 experiences, I was wondering how I should consider what to include.
At the risk of dominating too much, I apologize. If somebody else wants to talk over me, that's fine. But I think 10 is fine. I think what I would say is what's most important to you. That's what I want to see. So something you're passionate about, either through the experience section or the personal statement. In general, I like something that's a little bit unique or more of a leadership experience, something like that kind of shows who you are, and it gives us more to talk about during the interview. In our program, because we're small, I have international graduates who helped people who were injured during a war in Syria. I have residents who have worked in the Peace Corps, things like that. I mean, there's just different residents' experiences that really bring diversity to your program. So I think whatever you're most passionate about is what I would highlight.
And don't be afraid to add things that we don't necessarily think of as kind of the classic things you put on a CV. A lot of folks focus on research and we focus on volunteerism, and those are all wonderful. I love it when I see somebody's job experience include something in the service industry where they have had to manage customer service and might not have been experiencing kind customers on a regular basis. I mean, that just brings so much more to your practice of medicine. And I kind of wonder if people leave it off because they don't think it's going to strengthen a doctor's CV, but gosh, that really does help your practice. And I remember interviewing a woman who had been a manager at Walmart, and I mean, that's incredible experience for being a doctor. So don't be afraid to put those things on there as well.
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks. That's really valuable.
I was just going to add, having reviewed applications before, I think experiences that highlight your leadership ability, your creativity, but also your flexibility. So I think one of the most powerful experience that I read about was actually an applicant who started a podcast or like a radio broadcast to help people get accurate information during after one of the hurricanes that hit Puerto Rico. And I was just completely blown away by that. And I think in that instance, she demonstrated leadership, flexibility, and creativity. So just echoing what Dr. Carter said, you never know what people reviewing your application are going to find interesting. And we do get tired about hearing about all the research. So when those pop up, we're like, oh.
I'm glad you said that. I just wanted to add, we want to know who you are as a person. That's what we want to know. I mean, we will see your grades, we will see all of your experience, we'll see the research. The things that stick out to me are the things that let me know who you are as a person and what unique aspects you'll bring to our program. And so please don't leave that out. Those things that you think, oh, nobody wants to know about, those are the things we really want to know about. We want to know who you are.
Thank you so much for answering that. We are sadly approaching the end of our program overview portion of the evening and have time for one last question.
I kind of have a follow-up question to the experience. I know on ERAS, they used to have a hobby section. Would it be appropriate to list a hobby as an experience in cases where it's not necessarily a job? I'm thinking more of painting or being artistic is your hobby. Is that appropriate to put in the experience, or is it better to maybe write in a personal statement or speak about it in an interview, because it kind of shows who you are a little bit?
People want to jump on each other. I think that's a good question. I from our perspective, I think wherever it seemed like it fits the best, given the changes, I like the hobby section before. So I think, personal statement would be good. I wouldn't save it just till the interview because, when we're prepping for the interview, we kind of look through all those things. And so it'd be cool to talk about during an interview. And so have it in there somewhere so that people will see it. I don't think it matters. If it's maybe more of a hobby where you're showing art and other things, then maybe it belongs in the experiences. Whereas if it's something you enjoy doing for relaxation or, just recover from your stressful day, then maybe put that in the personal statement.
I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion, but again, I think if it's a hobby in which you've shown leadership or creativity or something that would, round you out as an applicant, putting it in the 10 experiences might strengthen your application. But if it's something that you love to do and just want to let us know, I think either personal statement or the hobby section might be a better place for it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, for answering all our questions with so much patience. Hopefully, everybody got the chance to learn a bit more about what our Mid-Atlantic, New England, and South Atlantic programs have to offer. We want to repeat how grateful we are to all the program directors, coordinators, and other representatives